be retained if the health district continued with 2 counties, or if San Juan decided to join or something like that?
Yeah, that's something that as far as when one county pulls out, any county that it would be, all 3 counties would have to figure out how are we going to approach our version of a health department, and I would expect that they would look to the current pool of professionals to fill those spots, but I don't know exactly how that would lay out. There wouldn't be any sort of inherent.
So if one county pulls out, the whole district is dissolved?
The interlocal agreement would seem to me to be no longer in effect at that point. So, but it may be worth getting legal counsel on that.
If I can say something on that. As your environmental health scientist here in Moab, in our office, we have me, the environmental health scientist, so we meet one spot there. I'm almost capable of covering as an interim health officer, but I've got a master's degree in their own thing. And then we have a part-time nurse that's an RN, a part-time nurse that's a LPN, something like that, and we have 2 part-time clerks. So currently, I'm the only full-time employee that's in Grand County. We're able to provide those services, but only because we have the support of those other 2 counties. And pretty much, what I want you all to take away from this, at least in my humble opinion, is we can't do it without. We have a functioning health department. We have a functioning team. This team works. Like, we're providing public health services. We're protecting public health. If we go break this off, I think it'd be years before we had a functioning health department that was able to provide all those services. It's hard to say. Brady's being very diplomatic about it, but I think we'd be years out. If we had another pertussis outbreak tomorrow, and we didn't have an epidemiologist, we didn't have Carbon and Emory to be our backup.
I don't think anybody. I haven't heard any interest in Grand County dissolving this.
No, but essentially that would happen if we can't figure out how to iron out these problems, and Carbon County leaves. Emory's going to go with them, and that's going to leave Grand having to figure out what to do. And that's just the bottom line.
So, question for our interim director here. So far on your radar, you've seen Carbon County pass a resolution with an intent to withdraw from the district as of December of this year, correct? Has Emory County, have you seen a similar instrument from Emory County?
Yes, and we have an Emory County commissioner here today, and they had passed a similar resolution.
So the circumstance, I'm just looking for some head nodding here, the circumstance we're looking at, if these 2 counties withdraw from the district, then Grand County is the sole county in the southeastern Utah Health District at that point. It's carrying an administrative and operational function based out of Carbon County, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so logistically, on day 1, that's what that's going to look like, if that answers questions. There is precedent of counties withdrawing from districts. San Juan County withdrew from this district, correct?
That is correct, yeah.
When did that happen?
I believe it was 3 years ago now.
And so
check that out.
The major or the primary effect of that was reformulating the formula in which funding flows to the districts from the state and federal entities. Is that right?
Yes.
So this event, irregardless if Carbon and Emory both withdrew from the district, from southeastern Utah Health District, formed a new district, and the same county that we would be, Grand County would currently be on the hook for an administrative and operational function. The state would have to reformulate the formula in which their money flows to now a new district or individually to Carbon and Emory counties in addition to everyone else.
Well, I don't know that at this point it would be reformulated. They currently have a formula, and they would distribute based on that formula. That's what I understand.
But when San Juan County withdrew from the district, they they reformulated the formula.
Yeah, at that point they realized that I guess I should speak generally, there wasn't really a formula at that point. Or they didn't know how to properly they didn't know how to apply it properly or not. They didn't know how to apply any sort of formula.
So have you received any correspondence or any form of communication from the state health folks in regard to a potential disbanding of counties from this district?
No, I have not.
So the state hasn't reached out to the Southeastern Utah Health District to comment or provide any kind of counsel on
well,
this?
As you asked that question, the board reached out to at least Dr. Joe Miner, who is the director of the Department of Health.
Okay.
I believe has reached out to certain people, and I spoke with him now a week and a half ago at meetings that I was at. And as far as giving me an idea of what the contract money adjustment would be, I have not seen anything to that effect. But in general, yeah, we have regular contact with Dr. Miner and other administrative staff.
Would you say that during any of that communication with Dr. Miner that there was encouragement to work the differences out on the board, to you as a director? I mean, was there anything in the nature of their concerns or their hopes or wishes to the health of the district in terms of the way it's been administered by the board?
Yes.
What's their position?
I believe I'm not out of line in saying that they truly want all of these stated differences to be ironed out so that the districts can remain together.
Yeah. No further questions.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I have one more.
Okay, Pat.
I understand that San Juan, though, pulled out voluntarily on their own to set up their own health department. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the difference that I see here is this is not a choice for Grand County. It was San Juan's choice. Mm-hmm. So I would assume that they would have had all the infrastructure built, and this is just my assumption, but they would have had that in place before to sustain the services to San Juan County, versus this would put us in a little bit different situation than that. So,
may I comment on that?
Sure.
I don't know that they had the infrastructure set up, but I think it's fair to say that the circumstances in which that county left the district is different than the circumstance.
That's the distinction I was trying to make.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey,
right.
Thanks very much. Appreciate you coming.
Should have reminded me not to wear a blue shirt, I think. Got stains there, but
Okay.
I appreciate the chance to meet you and address some of these things.
Thank you. And now we have 3 citizens who wish to comment on this agenda topic. First, we'll hear from Commissioner Jake Meller, Carbon County. And then, well, we'll go to that point. 3-minute time limit are the general rules. Okay, then Kent Wilson from Emery County. For those of you who do not know, he was appointed, right, to replace Keith Brady. So,
welcome, commissioners.
Yes.
Thank you.
Neighbors.
Right. Community partners. It's a pleasure to be here, and obviously we want to overlay the overall message. I think is a joint message from both Carbon and Emery counties that we would love to actually continue to work with Grand County going forward. However, over the past 6 to 8 months, our board has been very distracted with a number of side issues, and I'm not going to say that one county, any county, is without blame in regards to that. However, as other commissioners or other county members have been involved in the process of the Board of Health, they feel that the current board is desensitized to the dysfunction of the board, and that we have been distracted by a number of other things that have kept us from the overall purpose of public health. And I keep using the word we as the whole board, as I have sat on the board for the last 2.5 years. It has been, how would you say, a shame that it's come to this point. However, in an effort to reorganize membership on the board, or in an effort to reorganize so that we are a more functioning board, Carbon County has given its 90-day notice, which, if nothing else, is a bookkeeping item that, come to the worst-case scenario, we have the opportunity to have a functional board that allows the health department to perform their normal duties, current duties that, because of micromanaging from the board, they have not been doing the swimming pool inspections as regularly as they did previously. They have not been doing the restaurant inspections as regularly as they have been previously. And they have not been able to do a number of other functions that the board has interrupted their daily activities with silly things such as requesting the Attorney General to review financials, and then realizing, you have to go to the auditor for that, so the state auditor, and then just a number of other things. We've had a variety of subcommittees sanctioned by the board to perform certain functions, of which some of those functions have either been done in a manner that was not sanctioned, or they have just simply failed. And the straw that broke the camel's back was perhaps this last hiring process, of which 7 months of a hiring process, we have been unable to replace a director, which is longer than any other health department in Utah. Not to say that it's not allowed by statute to go up to a year, but we have been in the county that has the largest population, the largest number of health department employees reside in our county, and it has come to our attention, employees of the county in tears, crying, saying that they would just like to do their job, but the board is getting in the way. And so it has been a crisis in Carbon County, and fiscally responsible for what occurs in Carbon County as a board member. I brought it to the attention of the other commissioners, who immediately had a much stronger reaction than I did, and felt like we needed to give our 90-day notice to withdraw and reorganize.
Again, I'm sorry, that was the 3-minute time limit. Can you wrap it up, and then we'll go to Kent?
For sure. Again, the overall message is I wish all those questions that you pelted the interim director with, you could pelt me with, because we've actually done a lot of research. We know what can be done, what cannot be done, and we invite representation to the meeting Friday at 1 p.m., where the counties are going to discuss how to move forward as the governing entities of the health department. And again, we want to be good partners with Grand County. I have another item I'm going to discuss after this, is another attempt at being good partners with some of these rural counties. And give time to Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. From Emory County's perspective, we followed suit with Carbon County, not because we want to join them, but because we felt as a neighboring county we needed to keep our options open. If they pull out, we felt like we needed to reserve the right to do what was best for Emory County. And today we're not sure what that is. From our perspective, we want to get along. If that is blowing the board up, whatever it is Carbon County's grievances are, there are state people that feel like they are legitimate, the state association. And from my perspective, hiring a replacement for Dave Cunningham should be a 30-day process. A mistake was made. They have bylaws that said it takes 2/3 vote, I believe it is. You say it's a nine-member board. When you make it a unanimous decision, then it requires everybody to vote to find that director. They neutered themselves when they did that. And by taking 7 months, they turned the health department over to an interim director with very little guidance. And so I say congratulations, Brady, for taking care of the responsibilities of the board of directors. Because there was so much infighting trying to replace a director that they forgot that they had a responsibility to the taxpayers or the citizens of the counties. And so if it takes blowing up the board, I'm okay with that. Whatever it takes. We have 3 counties, and it's going to take all 3 of us to do the services at a reasonable cost. If we separate in any way, we are going to take and raise the cost of doing services to our residents, which is going to diminish the services. And so Emory County is doing this and going to the board with, they have 50% of the people. If they want a 4-man board, we get 2, and so be it. This is not a power struggle for me. It's about what's best for our residents. If whatever it is, I want us to get along in the sandbox. And so that's where Emory County is coming from. I've served on the board of directors for 12 years, 10 years ago. Served with Sam. I found her to be very capable at doing what she does. I am not sure how we got here, but at some point we lost focus on the people. It has become a conflict for some. I've only been here for 2 weeks. I haven't figured it out, and I hesitate to point fingers because some of my friends are on the board. But I know that it's a mess, and I know we have a responsibility to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, I felt like this was so important. I missed my first county council meeting to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, last citizen to be heard on this topic is Elizabeth Tubbs.
Thank you. I had some things that I wanted to say, and I'm going to change it a little bit. I have to totally disagree that the Board of Health has been in disarray for a year. It has not functioned any differently this year, except for the last few months, than it has in the other 4 years. I've been on the Board of Health for 5 years. So I don't believe that that's the case. Secondly, I'd like to just point out that the hiring committee that did such an incredibly poor job of not being able to hire a health officer in 7 months consisted of myself, Commissioner Miller, and former Commissioner Keith Brady. We all agreed, and the board agreed, that the hiring process was not a very good one. We did not come up with any process per se until usually 5 minutes before we needed to vote on something. So, what should be done or what shouldn't be done had to be revisited in the opinion of not just me or the Grand County folks, but it went to a vote to the board, and it was passed 8-1. It was at a special meeting to reopen the hiring process and to establish a new hiring committee. That happened at a special meeting in August, thank you. Commissioner Miller was not at that meeting. He did phone into the meeting. When that vote was taken, he was no longer on the phone. But regardless, it was passed 8-1. The board then also decided to appoint a new hiring committee they kept me on it. I don't know why, but I was happy to give it over to somebody else from Grand County. Kathy Curdy-Reeves from Emory County and Debbie Peete from Carbon County. So again, all 3 counties were adequately represented on that. The 3 of us met, developed a hiring process. Some allegations were made before Carbon County passed the resolution to pull out. And in an email, Commissioner Miller accused me of having an agenda and being aggressive, and that was part of the reason. At that point, I did not want to be a distraction to the hiring committee, and I immediately withdrew from the hiring committee, not from the board. So I'm not sure what the problem was with the hiring process. Councilwoman Hawks took my place on the hiring committee and developed some additional items in the process, was not allowed to present it at the next regular board meeting. I was not at that board meeting. I was enjoying sunny Mexico. So I think the problems that we're talking about are board issues. They're not issues for county councils or county commissions. county councils and commissions to make decisions as to whether they want to continue with this. They could also make decisions as to who should be on the board representing their county. But beyond that, all of these issues are Board of Health issues. And I will also dispute, Commissioner Miller said that the county council and commission members are the governing entities. That's absolutely incorrect. The governing entity of the health department is the Board of Health. That's written in state code, that's written in the interlocal agreement, and that's in our bylaws. So it is not appropriate for county council and commission members to meet aside from the full board and make decisions about how to proceed. I strenuously object to that. I think all of these issues need to be aired with the entire board and be discussed. I am not sure what the issues are, what the problems are. I've been accused personally. Grand County has been held responsible for causing all of these issues. Not one detail has been offered as to what we have done or what I have done. I have been called aggressive. I am outspoken. I do speak my mind. I will admit to that. Nothing aggressive about it. You don't have to agree with me. A number of you that I serve with on this council know that. So I would like to know what it is that we need to do or what it is that we've done. But it needs to be handled in the board, not in county council and commission meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't overstay my welcome.
Not quite.
I mean my timeline.
You're always welcome.
Our timer fell down on the job.
Oh.
Jake,
Roy.
get back up. No.
All I was elected for.
I appreciate the comments from you three. I especially appreciate Orion and Brady's comments and preparing that presentation. It's been very helpful. I just want to add that there was a special meeting held between, Brady was in the meeting, Liz was in the meeting, and Commissioner Potter from Carbon County. And I listened to the Kathy Kearney-Reeves from Emory County was there as well. I listened to that meeting because there had been comments made in the Carbon County Commission meeting that, well, no, that's not true. It was in an email that was not a very productive, good meeting, and so I listened to it. Honestly, I think that is the kind of frank, open, honest discussions that we need to have on the board to work through the issues. I was thoroughly impressed with everybody's decorum, everybody's willingness to speak their minds, yet be respectful. I was very impressed. And I am happy to go to a commissioner county meeting to talk, but I tend to agree that this belongs. We have taken the conversation away from the board where it belongs. And I have full confidence in the Board of Health, the people on that board, that they can work through these issues if specific things are brought forth, and I want to take it back to that board and have the kind of frank, open, honest discussion that was had between those four participants.
I got an email from Mr. Meyer, that states that the authority rests with county officials, not the board of directors. And there is precedent for that. I get over the email to you. Or you can give him a call and talk to him himself.
I would appreciate you forwarding that email, because that's not what I'm reading in statute, but I have full...
He used the words Tri-County.
Mm-hmm.
They are the ones who disbanded their board because of being dysfunctional. And their county commission filled in until they could go through the process of leaving the board. But that's the longest way to do it.
Okay.
There is precedence for counties doing that.
Okay, thank you. And I would like to see that email, if you wouldn't mind. He is an authority.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Well, I can understand where, Liz is coming from as far as board business should be discussed and administered by the district board business, but from a Grand County council member's perspective that is not involved in this district, I mean, it's very clear that there's some conflict with the board, and when you have, half of the board stating the conflict and the lack of efficient management is so bad that we're willing to hit the red button, I think it is perfectly appropriate for the county to invite the local health district person, the health district director, to have other board members speak on the issue, because ultimately we're looking out for not only the financial welfare of the county, which this would affect if this district did dissolve, but also our citizens are receive services and health benefits from the local district. So I don't like hearing that this is absolutely not county business and it shouldn't be discussed in a council meeting, because with all due respect, the district meetings are not getting good reviews in terms of their ability to manage the district to the extent that it's willing to go up in smoke. So I do want to acknowledge that I think it's appropriate for the conflicts to be worked out by the district and that board, but it is the county's ability to appoint members and revoke members to that board with cause. And so for us to have a healthy level of consciousness to make those decisions, we need to know what's going on, frankly. So that's it.
And I probably will stand corrected when I see this email. However, I don't believe that the Health District Board has been given the opportunity or the specifics they need to have to address what's been going on. I've been on that board since I'm a new member since I missed the January meeting, started in March, but I have not felt the discord and I have not felt the 5-4 or whatever clash that I'm hearing described. So, and one more comment, and then we need to move on. Thank you.
Just to point out something in your paper. There is a meeting Friday in Carbon County at 1 o'clock. They requested we not have a forum. So that means they have one person, we have one person, you can have 3 people at that meeting to ask whatever questions you want of those commissioners. So I want to think it's not just one person, it's not until you guys can have 3.
Right.
State will be there to provide that.
Dr. Miner?
Dr. Miner answer.
Oh, good. Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Look forward to the meeting. Okay.
I was just going to, the state recognizes that this is outside the hands of the board, that they're working with the counties to ensure that either goes forward as it is as tri-county, or as 2 counties goes forward.
Okay. Thank you. Next, citizens to be heard. This is your opportunity to be heard, to address the council on something other than is on the agenda. So we have one person. Would you please introduce yourself?
My name's Joe Downard. I was born here in 1969. Moab resident, and my goal is to take over the motocross track south of town. I know many people have tried to make that work. I just thought I would try to kind of get some guidance from the council how to do that. I'd love to set up a non-profit, make it a safe place for kids to ride, hold 1 or 2 events, for the community, motocross, and that's my story.
That was short. We like those. Okay,
and I think I can make it work.
Thank you. This really isn't the forum to have a discussion back and forth, but I appreciate you bringing that to us. And I guess my suggestion would be come have coffee with Kurt.
I'll do that.
I signed up for it. That's right.
You signed up for it?
Yeah,
okay.
that would be.
I'm very interested, and I'm a very determined person, so I don't give up easy.
Yeah.
So,
well, I coached your son in football, so I understand.
That's going to be better, so I just wanted to just let that be heard, and that's what I would like to do.
You can
get with you.
Yeah, you're welcome to come and use that as a channel of communication, but you can also, I would recommend reaching out to, I'm going to pass the buck to Ruth, just to get an update on maybe some of the recent actions by the council on that piece of land, so you can kind of understand some of the options we've been weighing.
Sure. Sure.
But would welcome the dialogue either way.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep, that's what I'm here for, is to find out how to proceed.
Okay, I'm
Thanks,
right next
Joe.
door,
Yep,
so.
I know.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Commissioner Miller.
I appreciate this opportunity, even though I'm not a Grand County resident, to talk about some changes to current legislation in regards to our state tax law. Well, at least we're trying to run a bill, and this bill would benefit Grand County in a number of different ways. In fact, I left my notes, so this will be really quick. This is going to be a rural Utah state tax incentive. And the reason why it is beneficial for economic growth, and Zachariah, anyway, there was a work meeting with the Governor's Rural Partnership Board that he was in presence. And during that meeting, they were discussing 60 different items and presented 9 more items to be discussed and reviewed to identify the top 10 to present to the governor of those items most likely to impact growth in rural Utah, in areas that perhaps are not benefiting from the prosperity that the rest of Utah is enjoying. And the item that got voted number 1 is this particular item. And I know the governor is going to be here to visit with you guys in a couple days.
Tomorrow. Noon.
Tomorrow. So I would highly recommend that you would recognize what the Governor's Rural Partnership Board has voted as their number 1 item, and the 7-county coalition, which we would love for you guys to make it an 8-county coalition, because there are so many items that are worked on the east slope, so to speak, of Utah that you guys would fit perfectly into. Now, we understand that Grand County is unique, right? But every county has its own uniqueness, and we can accomplish more together than apart. So what I'm getting at here is this state rural income tax incentive. You guys would qualify, all of your taxpayers here, that's both individual and corporate, that currently live here, for a portion of that 5% state income tax to come back in the form of a credit to promote economic development, to help those income earners, the labor force, the working population, to stop leaving, so to speak, to kind of plug the drain, and also to incentivize those companies that are thinking of expanding or might think of relocating to Grand County, giving them that extra nudge. Corporations that sometimes operate on a 10% profit margin would now potentially get, a portion more, that 1 to 5% back. As the matrix is currently formulated, you qualify for 3 of the 5 items. You qualify for rural density by definition. You qualify for having a high unemployment rate, higher than Utah average, quite a bit higher. I say quite a bit because Utah average is extremely low. And low economic diversity. So, very concentrated in tourism. If you could have manufacturing, if you have a lot of different things, that would diversify your economy down here. But because of those, you would benefit to the tune currently of around $270,000 that would come to the people and to the businesses here. And that number would increase as you have growth in the area. And it is a scalable formula where eventually we can work ourselves out of the need of receiving this incentive, but only as we become more prosperous as the rest of the state of Utah is prosperous. So I would encourage you, when you have your discussion with the governor tomorrow, to be in favor of this item, the Rural Utah State Income Tax Incentive. And it's kind of exciting. Possibly Senator Okerlund will be running this bill. And with his current Okerlund, he has told people that he's not running any bills, but he's really excited about this one. So that alone should state the importance of what it is for the local economies in the rural areas here. And that was just a little announcement. I wanted you to be aware of it because of your meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Good work, Jay. Thank you.
Any other citizens to be heard? Okay, let's move on to presentations. We have an exciting presentation on the Old Spanish National Historic Trail Recreation, and Development Strategy. Rob Sweeten. I'll let you introduce yourself. Thank you for coming, guys. Travel safe.
Thank you, Council. I'm Rob Sweeten.
and I'm the Old Spanish Trail Administrator and Historic Trails Lead for the BLM. And McKenna, go ahead.
I'm McKenna Drew, and I'm Ralph's intern.
Ralph's intern. How could you? Actually, she's a landscape architect working for me on Historic Trails. And I first want to say thank you, and this is kind of nostalgic for me because my 3 terms of politics in Grand County were a highlight in my life. I see a lot of familiar faces and some new faces. Watching you and work and hearing the subjects that you deal with and knowing what you deal with to a degree makes me appreciate you even more. So thank you. It's funny, as I ran for city council when I was here in Moab, I'd always knock on everyone's door and we'd talk about partnership. It's always working with the counties or all sorts of other things. And yet that seemed to be so difficult. And what we're here to talk about, and I'm going to turn the time over to McKenna here in a moment, is truly a collaborative effort. And what I want to explain to you is a little bit, before she presents, about the significance of the Trail System Act and the Old Spanish National Historic Trail. This trail was designated in 2002, and it's fairly new. And it's always interesting to me because Grand County is a county of trails. Moab City is a city of trails. We make our living primarily on trails. People come here to ride, bike, hike, trails. And the highest designated trail in your county is the Old Spanish National Historic Trail. It's the only trail that's designated by 2 acts of Congress within this county. That doesn't happen every day. You don't get a trail designated by Congress in your county. And so it's an honor for me to fill this position. It's new, and I want to explain my position. Because my position as a trail administrator with the Park Service isn't for just the BLM sections of the trail. I'm not just here to represent, and Congress didn't ask my position to be for the BLM portions. It's for the entire trail. So my position is a resource for you. It's a resource for the Forest Service. It's a resource for private individuals. It's a resource for all entities that have the trail crossing it, to assist you in helping to bring this trail to life. Now I have certain mandates that I have to go through, comprehensive plans and all sorts of bureaucracy and procedure. But the good news is that the product that we're here to talk to you about is nothing of that. It's basically how can we take this trail, which is a line on a map, and turn it into a line on the ground for people to go and appreciate and enjoy. And that's what we're here to do. And that's what we've been doing in your county for the last 3 or 4 months. 3 months? Yeah. As we've participated with various different entities and partners and groups in public meetings to create this draft product that we've presented to you. This isn't a decision document. This isn't a NEPA, Resource Management Plan, ACEC. Boy, I could go on all the acronyms. This is a strategy. There are no dumb ideas in this document. We've talked to Arches National Park. We've talked to the Dan O'Leary Museum. We've talked to various different entities. If they don't want to be involved and included in this, we take them out. If a private property owner comes to us and says, I want to run mule train, do a bar M takeoff and go sing and dance on a mule, we'll go, great, join the document. How can we help you do it? This is a very inclusive strategy to create a partnership and a document that can be used to leverage funds, leverage future efforts for the improvements of this trail. We have done this starting in Los Angeles, and we are currently, McKenna's been writing a grant to work in Mesa and Delta counties in Colorado. We've been moving from west to east. We have completed successful strategies in Iron County, and we are currently in the works for Paiute, Garfield, Sevier County, and now Grand and San Juan County. And we completed it in Iron County, and I was going to try to have the commissioner Emery counties, which we just finished, we got yesterday, right? Done, all right, with their full support and even funding. So, with that slight introduction, so I want to leave time for questions. I'm going to let McKenna talk briefly with a slight PowerPoint on what this document is.
Yes. Can you hear me? They can hear me. I'll be brief with this, so I'll let Rob get to questions. But I'm just basically going to summarize the process and the document we've included within your packet. So like Rob said before, this is just a guide for decision makers, a way for us to bring everyone together and figure out ways that we can bring the Old Spanish Trail to life. And this is a quote from the National Trail System Act, that in order to provide for the ever-increasing outdoor recreation needs of an expanding population, and in order to promote the preservation and public access, travel, enjoyment, and appreciation of open-air outdoor areas, historic resources of the nation, trails should be established. Okay, so this is just a little summary on the Old Spanish Trail, like Rob mentioned. So this was a pack mule trade trail that goes from Santa Fe to Los Angeles, and Rob is the administrator, one of the administrators over the trail, and so we've been doing these strategies, like he mentioned, with several other counties. So, like he also mentioned, these are not decisional documents, but they're guided documents to provide future efforts to mark, improve, interpret, and utilize the trail. And this is a copy of the document that we've provided within your packet. And here are just some examples of what is included within these recreation and development strategy documents. So we've focused on ways to mark the trail, whether it be interpretive signs, or these are trails or signs from the National Park Service with the actual Old Spanish Trail insignia, and those are a few efforts that we've had. Iron County's just recently put up a lot of their signs within their county.
86 miles.
86 miles. Also including areas for interpretive signs and other ways of interpretation. I believe Green River has the silhouette cutouts that many of you may have seen that is one way to interpret the trail. This is Cane Springs, and so just showing, wayside signs are another opportunity. Developing trailheads, pedestrian signs, things that will really highlight and improve the trail. We've also included within the document working with partnerships such as Museum of Moab, simple ways that they can even just include pamphlets or passport pass out things that they can have people come to use them as a resource for the Old Spanish Trail. That's the end of my presentation, so I'll turn it back to Rob.
So, ultimately, we have a map. I left this map from our public meeting. I know it says San Juan County, and that's not just, but we're doing this together with San Juan County as a joint effort. We've done that in other counties. There are some inherent challenges sometimes when we do that, but I'm going down on the 24th of October to present to the San Juan County Commissioners, hopefully with their enthusiastic support. So you ask, why do we talk to you guys? Ultimately, what we're trying to do is get this trail marked on the ground. Whether or not these interpretive trailheads and schemes and things that come out of the strategy, that's up to you, the land managers, the entities and the agencies to pursue that. But ultimately, we'd like to get this trail marked. And within this document, we've identified where we feel that would be. And in order for that to happen, we need to do, the next step we do is what's called a sign plan. We're going to basically say, here's the signs, here's the type of sign, big, metallic, auto sign, small, carcinite marker sign, turn right, turn left, this is the actual route, or this is the way to the actual route. It's kind of a Park Service bureaucratic process, but it's necessary because we're sticking things in rights of ways and we're marking something for people to follow. We'd ultimately need to come to you for approval of that. We'd have to get approval from UDOT. We'd have to get approval from the BLM. we'd have to get approval from the city of Moab in order to do this. It's kind of a complicated process to put up signs on a linear feature. And we'd hope that after you've reviewed this, and as we put that plan together, which is the next step we're going to take, that when it comes to you, you'd be enthusiastic, informed, and supportive of that. To date, every county that we've done this in has unanimously approved this. Some of them not exactly usually doing so. I mean, it's really great to see a project like this get full unanimous support from places like Iron County and Garfield County and other places where sometimes these kind of things can be divisive or perhaps be considered to be a BLM project or something of that nature. I want to emphasize it's not necessarily a BLM project. This is the National Trail System that I'm here to represent. And it just happens that the Secretary asked the Park Service and the BLM to co-administer this trail for everyone. So that's what I'm here for in that capacity. Questions?
Council? I have one.
Yes.
So you would need the approval of all the entities over which this trail crosses for your sign plan.
Yes.
I guess my question is funding. Who funds it?
Great question. And the first thing I want to emphasize is this is a draft. In fact, Katie Stevens is our local lead here, and she handed me the edited version. If anyone knows Katie, she's a really good editor, and there's a lot of red pen in there. So if you find misspellings or typos, that's because this hasn't even been edited. It's just here to show you what we're working on. Had to put that out. The funding. The BLM, the various different partners put these things together for grants. Iron County's was funded through a $15,000 donation from private, from the recreation, the same grant that you got the funding for your equestrian trail. There are equestrian trails proposed in here. Trust me, Emory County's plan has 200 and something miles of new marked trail proposed for both equestrian. If we look in Emory Counties, and the same graph is in your plan if you were to look, but in Emory Counties, in the end, we have a trail chart. And it basically identifies non-motorized auto tour routes and multiple use trails. These would all be new, not necessarily new routes for people to follow, but new marked with a new emphasis on heritage tourism for people to go and enjoy and appreciate. There's a 30-mile ATV loop in Emory County that no one knows they're riding on the old Spanish Trail. And with this new emphasis in marking and with the improvements, things like Head Rock and these things that people are just driving past without even knowing the history will become incredible assets to that county. And so when you present that to the outdoor recreation office in the county, when these things, they wrap it up. And the grants and the funding is made available. So in essence, this document becomes, when you hand someone, hopefully, a document of this caliber, when you present that to a grant, to an entity, the Park Service, even the BLM, with this kind of partnership, the funding has not been difficult to come by.
Yeah, that's huge. Thank you.
But right now, that's what this is a seeded effort to help show that there's a plan to follow for that effort, for trail mix to take, for the BLM to take, for whoever wants to go.
Right. Curtis.
How is progress in other states? Nevada, California, Colorado, New Mexico?
I'm heading to Barstow. In fact, get to turn around and drive across the swell in the dark to get to Barstow. We have an approved recreation development strategy for San Juan and Inyo County, or for San Bernardino and Inyo counties in California. We are going there now to talk about that particular effort. It has not yet moved to a sign plan. Things in California can get kind of crazy. Lots of red tape in California, but it's alive and kicking and moving forward. We have an effort in Las Vegas to do a sign plan basically all the way from the state line to Mesquite, and with the primary effort in Las Vegas, that's underway. Los Angeles has a sign plan underway, so it's going well. The first county to really take it and apply for the grants was the first one we did, which was Iron County, and it's led to a full approved sign plan off-highway vehicles, new resources for citizens that they need to know. Here's the amazing thing with that, and also the amazing thing with this plan, and some of the things that are in here. When we come hold these public meetings, and we start talking to people like Dave Vaughn, I mean, if you ever want to learn about cool things that people don't know about, go talk to Dave Vaughn, you know. I mean, we've gone out on numerous field trips, and he showed us stuff like, oh, wow, you know. In Emory County, we met with people that showed us stuff our archaeologists' jaws dropped. Wow, Spanish crosses and insignias. And things came to light that the citizens of that county didn't even know existed. And now they're getting a chance to perhaps let people see those and view them. Things like the Lion's Tail Trail that has been talked about for a long time. When I was on the city council, Trail Mix brought that up. We've had some substantive meetings with Arches National Park, and they seem open to that particular effort, which has in the past been gone nowhere. So I mean, just that trail alone in Grant County would be an amazing asset. People would lap that up if we can make that work.
What if we don't want to share it?
Just take it out.
No, he's serious.
We take it out. I mean, there's nothing in here that and that input's totally welcome. But those kind of things could really be exciting. And some of these things may be taken out. The SLS inscription that's in here, that's at Crescent Junction, is a phenomenal resource from 1842 that no one goes to see. Does it stay in the document? Does it get presented? I don't know. But at least it's informing you that opportunity exists. So there's a gem there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is a terrific tool. I'm excited
about it.
So
we have great people in the county that will pick it up and run with it.
We will take this document and make the improvements. I've already heard even today the Backcountry Horsemen were talking to me about how we could connect Looking Glass Rock to Cameo Cliffs in an ATV trail. It's proposed now as an equestrian route in this document. But there's all sorts of opportunities. And if anyone, I'll just give you one example. Sorry to take this for a long time. But I lived here for 16 years, and I didn't understand the significance of Looking Glass Rock. I had no idea of how it was used historically as a landmark, not as an arch or a place to go carve your name because, I don't know, that's what seems to be going on there. When I went there, understanding why it's called Looking Glass Rock, because if you stand in the back of the arch at a particular point, a direct line tells you where to go, just like a looking glass. My perspective of that particular site changed. I mean, it became a really cool resource.
Something that I would like to see, and I would request from you, is because I lack a good frame of reference for other, trail conservation kind of optimization efforts of this magnitude that have happened, and it would be nice to see, any, if there are any of, like, I don't know if like the Donner Trail or any other significant trail where you've had an effort like this. I'd like to see examples of it so that I can have a frame of reference. And I think also something that comes to mind is because this is absolutely an invaluable historical and cultural resource, and it would be good to have. This is a good thing, is what I'm trying to say. But also, there's been a lot of regulatory consequences of historic trails and other, land uses and whatnot. And there's been a lot of, with this administration, a lot of emphasis on the county resource management plans and kind of emboldening those and having the county resource management plans be more than just another plan for the shelf, but to be a legitimate document that is referenced by the local BLM field offices and things like that. And so I think it's valid for us to understand what other indirect consequences, if any, from investing more resources into the conservation of the trail, just to have the information as decision makers. But I think those frames of reference would be key. I mean, I don't know. I guess I would ask you: has there been an effort to this magnitude to date that you're aware of to conserve a trail that's this size?
Let me thank you. It's a fantastic question. the National Trail System, the multitude of trails from the California, Oregon, Pony, Mormon Pioneer, I mean, those are huge trails.
Yeah.
This is a 2,700-mile trail. So this isn't a new effort to try to preserve, interpret, utilize these trails. Okay. This particular method is new. It's neat. I came up with this. It's a co-administered trail, so it's one of the few. So the BLM had an opportunity to do this. This is new. This is a different approach, and it came about through a very strange way. And I don't have time to elaborate on that. But we're supposed to do a comprehensive plan for each trail. Each trail has done that. The Park Service has taken a primary lead. But because the BLM and the Park Service had some fundamental disagreements on how things were supposed to move forward, one being a very preserve and protect kind of an organization, no, nothing against that, and this trail is definitely meant to be preserved and protected.
Right.
And the BLM, being a multiple use type of an agency, we agreed to disagree, and we said we'd move forward in various different ways. This is my attempt to move forward where we agreed to disagree.
Yeah.
And focus on the recreational component of this trail. So it's new. So I can't really point you to anything besides the other documents, Iron Counties, San Bernardino and Inyo counties, and other things where we've done this. But the trail has definitely been interpreted and utilized by other states far more than it has in Utah or in other areas. It truly is the mighty four of the state of Utah is the Pony Express, California, Mormon Pioneer, and Old Spanish. They are the only four trails designated by Congress in this state. And with that comes a prestige and an excitement.
Right.
The other thing I'd like to mention, you mentioned management and the challenges.
Yeah.
I can't change the fact that Congress designated the Old Spanish Trail and gave within it a protective mandate. Certainly, where resources have been identified and need to be protected, that has been viewed as an obstruction to some actions. Right. I'm the administrator, I'm not the manager. Okay. But I often tell other counties, the horse has already left the pasture. The trail has been designated. But it doesn't have a rider. So who's going to rope this horse and be its jockey? The act doesn't, it's whoever chooses to. It's who wants to help guide and steer that. And I'm coming before the county council to say, here's an opportunity for you to really take the reins and steer the horse.
Yeah.
We can't change the fact that the trail may say no to a few things here or there or viewed that way. But I'd much rather have a usable line on the ground dictating protective measures and management measures than a line on a map.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I would my final comment is, we Grand County Council argues a lot about public land, as you know.
It's a big deal here.
Yeah, and we, often it's preservation and conservation versus the economics, and we debate which economic resource is better, should be preserved. But I would say that the long game view of public land management, this is really what it's about. And you've got a historic trail dating back to the 1500s. This is something that interests me in terms of preservation and conservation. This is a historic trail of significance that if you think 150, 200 years in the future, this is something that we could provide for people. So this is good. I like it.
Thank you, and that's our goal. And I just want to say, I'm not here to say that the act or preservation is not something that I focus on, or that the BLM management here, may go a different direction, or the Forest Service or the Park Service, or however they want. That's up to them. I'm the administrator. I just know that it's a public trail, and I'm here to facilitate that.
Okay, thank you.
So we will keep you informed.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good trip.
Thank you. Off we go.
Everybody's leaving us to travel. Thank you.
You're all lucky to live here.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, next on our agenda is Agenda Item K, approving discretionary funds for Grand County Homeless Coordinating Committee. And to present that, our Council Member McGann and Moab City Police Chief Jim Winder.
I mentioned in my county council report last time that we have re-energized the Homeless Committee meeting, and we're going to start creating a means to communicate more efficiently between different agencies that are working with the homeless. We're having a working meeting on October 11th to create that document, and that's why I asked Jim to come, because he's going to be facilitating the meeting, and he'll be better able to explain what we're doing. So do you want to come up?
No, it's okay. Welcome to Moab. I've been meaning to stop by and say hi, but I have not done it yet, so glad you're here.
I thought you were signing autographs.
Madam Chair, I appreciate that very much. No reason for you to come over. It's I who is honored to be here today to come and meet the remainder of you that I haven't had the opportunity to do so, and express my sincere appreciation and excitement at the opportunity to be working in this community. And so thank you very much for this time today. As Councilwoman McGann indicated, I have been fortunate enough to land in the Grand County Homeless Coordination Committee, and I'm quite heartened by the activities that are taking place in that, and find it to be a group of individuals who are committed to a problem that seems like it's big city, but it really is everywhere. No exception here. One of the things I've been, I guess not stunned, but a little surprised about really is the volume and complexity of the issue here in this community. It's has some flavors that I am very familiar with, and it certainly has some complexities that are unique to your particular area. And as the Councilwoman indicated, this group of people have been immersed in this situation here in your county for years, and I think I'm learning a great deal from them, and I hope that together, as we move forward, we can find you some solutions, because it's going to remain a problem. And with that, the other thing I just say is, as I sat back there, I had kind of sweaty back on the deck as I realized how much I don't miss being in county government anymore. The complexity of the issues that you face every day. I mean, the young lady that was sitting behind me, I don't know if I wasn't trying to be rude, but she was here on a civics project, and was, she and her mom, I could hear them talking, so I was trying to communicate with them a little bit, and I did say to them, I said, you can now see what government's all about. This is the meat and potatoes, and so few people come sometimes and see what you do. You should all be very proud of the work you do. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the discretionary funds for the Grand County Homeless Coordinating Committee for a working lunch to be held on October 11th for up to $100, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Wonderful. Curtis has made the motion. I think Rory raised his hand first. Rory seconds the motion. Any discussion?
I'm just surprised you sat there for $100. I would have given it to you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Keep that in mind.
I think I earned $100.
You did earn $100.
Yeah.
I just want to say that committee is very near and dear to my heart, because prior to Mary's sojourn on it, that was my assignment, and I was the former director of the Seek Haven, so I sat on it for that too, and it's a complex process trying to work out how to get things done in a rural setting when most of the money has been funneled up to the urban setting. So I'll just leave it at that.
And I wanted to mention, we can do it after our vote, but the chief has also been helping me with the throttle down and working with the UTV-ATV issue in town. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything on that, or...
What can I hold off and let's get a vote first, and then we'll let you make a comment or two. So the motion's been made by Kurt, seconded by Rory. All in favor? Kurt?
Sorry. Support it.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. And now, tell us about those other efforts.
Again, one of the great opportunities down here is learning more about your the ATV, UTV issues that, again, are very unique. We're familiar with it from my previous iteration in a completely different light. Coming here and seeing them has been very interesting, and I think there's some great new energy with some opportunities to resolve some problems that I know I hear about it relationship on that issue. And I hope that the efforts that we move forward will bring, continuity together. I think everyone's pretty well on the same page with it. It's a matter of moving forward, and I'm anxious to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice meeting you all. Yeah, I do actually. Thank you very much.
Yeah, but it's worth about $100.
Hidden gems in your county. Thank you.
Your county now.
Okay, agenda item L, approving the 2017 property tax abatements and cancellations through 9/28/2017 to be presented by Chris Kaufman, our Grand County Treasurer. Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. So I'm here to present the property tax abatements and cancellations through September 28th. This is one of our sort of housekeeping jobs that we have to do each year. In accordance with state law, Grand County accepts applications for property tax abatements from veterans with a service-related disability, persons who are legally blind, low-income individuals who are over age 64, disabled, or experiencing extreme hardship. Most of these abatements are mandatory for the county to approve. So again, it's sort of a housekeeping thing that I come to you with every year. And the reason I'm coming right now is because I'm in preparation for sending the tax bills out. So I like to get as many of these approved as possible before we do that. But then I'll be back at the end of the year for the few stragglers that come in after this time. And I do need to bring it to the council because the council is the body that has the authority to make these tax reductions. The total impact at this stage in the year is about $180,000, about 62 or 63,000 of which will be reimbursed by the state, leaving a final impact of about $116,000. One thing to note, or two things to note about that fiscal impact. First of all, this is not a direct impact to the county. This is spread over all the taxing entities, so it's actually going to affect the school district the most. And also, the abatements are factored into the collection rate every year, which is also factored into the tax rate. So it's not really an impact on the bottom line to the entities, but it is a burden that the rest of the taxpayers do end up picking up in the form of a higher tax rate to take into account these taxes that are not collected. I did provide in the packet a graph showing the last 5 years of the abatements and cancellations just to give you an idea of where we're at with this year's, and I think it's pretty much in line with what we've seen. We are seeing, a slight increase in the abatements as we go along, and I think that's due in large part not necessarily to a lot more people on the program, but because of property values increasing, and therefore there's just more taxes to abate because of that.
Question?
Yes.
Yes, Greg.
Could you explain the difference between a cancellation and an abatement?
Sure. So the abatements are applications that those groups of individuals that I mentioned bring to the county, and then we reduce their taxes. The cancellations are a little bit different. Those happen for a whole variety of reasons, and I've listed every single cancellation in the summary there and the reasons for each one. So sometimes it's if a property is sold to the federal government, then we cancel the taxes for the portion of the year that the federal government owned it as an exempt entity. Sometimes we have just mistakes that happen in the valuation of a property, and then there'll be a cancellation. You'll also see that there's a variety of really small cancellations when someone is just a little bit short on a payment. It's not worthwhile to go and try and collect less than $1 from them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Mary?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the 2017 property tax abatements and cancellations through 9/28/2017 as presented, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Mary's made the motion. Do I have a second? Greg seconds the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Councilmember Clapper to tell us about approving the midterm volunteer board appointment to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, just as a reminder, a commissioner from the Planning Commission stepped down, and so there's a vacancy through the end of the year. There was only 2 applicants for that position, both of whom are here tonight. So this appointment would be just through the end of the year, and then there's some other terms that are expiring at the end of the year, so there'll be some more vacancies to fill at the end of the year. So hopefully whoever is not appointed tonight will apply again when that opportunity comes up. The Planning Commission did meet on this at the last meeting. They interviewed the 2 candidates, and because there was a vacancy on the board, it was just 6 commissioners, and they were split 3-3. So both applicants received support, but not a majority. There was no recommendation forwarded from the Planning Commission.
Okay. Curtis has had his hand up for a while.
I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve the appointment of Emily Campbell to the Grand County Planning Commission to fill the resignation of Planning Commissioner Dave Tubbs' term ending December 31st, 2017.
Mary.
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
You need a second.
We got to have a second. Rory seconds the motion. Discussion. Go ahead, Kurt.
We have 2 very qualified and capable candidates as represented by the 3-3 vote. I just specifically really liked Emily's background in regional economic development as a research economist, and I think as planning and zoning moves forward into a semi-economic space, for instance, the assured housing policy, where economics of the region are significantly impacted by any potential policy, I think that perspective and that value set would be a great voice on the Planning Commission, either now or next year.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Mary.
I'd like to make a substitute motion. I move to approve the appointment of Kevin Walker to the Grand County Council Planning Commission to fill the resignation of Planning Commissioner Dave Tubbs' term ending on December 31st, 2017.
Okay, Mary's made a substitute motion to approve the appointment of Kevin Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, what's that, Mary?
I was just going to make a comment.
Oh, okay.
Why I made that motion.
Seconded by Councilman Clapper. Discussion.
I made that motion. I read through both of their applications. They were both very good, like you said. Very qualified applicants, but receiving phone calls and emails from people, citizens in our county asking for the appointment of Kevin Walker. I would like to follow what the citizens have asked.
Okay, any more discussion?
I would just like to add that Kevin has lived in Grand County for quite some time. Also, he does live in the county, as in outside of city limits or Castle Valley limits, which no one on the commission currently fills that void. From personal experience, I know that he has a good understanding of zoning issues, and from seeing both of their interviews the other night at the Planning Commission, I appreciated that Kevin had a real focus on preserving neighborhoods and the communities there.
Okay. Any more? Councilmember McGinn made the motion to appoint Kevin Walker, and Councilman Clapper seconded the motion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? 1, 2, 3. Motion carries 4-3 with Councilman Wells, Councilman Paxton, and Councilman Trim voting opposed. Congratulations, Kevin.
Emily, I really hope you do reapply.
There's going to be a lot of openings.
Great, yeah.
I got my husband on board.
both
you.
very capable. It would be good to have both of you on board.
Okay, agenda item N. We'll have Zachariah Levine, Community Development Director, to lead us through approving contract award to BAE Urban Economics to conduct a market feasibility and possibly a nexus analysis study for Moab City and Grand County.
Okay, so the city and the county have already agreed to share in the costs of an economic study in relation to integrating affordable housing requirements into Grand County's and the city of Moab's respective land use codes. Well, I think each entity is aware of the fact that irrespective of the outcomes of this study, they do have separate land use codes, and so the purposes of this study in terms of doing it together is just because the housing market and local economy are really just so intimately connected between the two jurisdictions that it makes sense to conduct one study for both entities. So we've had a lot of conversations about the purpose of conducting a study like this, and the city and the county, like I said, agreed to share in the costs of the study. And so I will just go through the process that we followed to seek a consultant to actually complete the study. So in June, an RFP was announced seeking services for a feasibility study and nexus analysis. That RFP remained open until July 31st. I did provide a question and answer session on the phone for interested firms. There were, I think, 7 firms that participated in that phone call, but only one firm actually submitted a proposal. That was a little bit concerning, somewhat unexpected, I guess, on my end, given that there was so much interest on the phone call. And so in your packet there is an explanation as to why those other firms didn't submit proposals, and there was nothing really alarming in their responses, but I did want to provide that just so that it was not alarming to you all that we only had one firm submitting a proposal. So after that RFP closed, I met with the RFP selection committee, which included one council person from each council, the city and the county, the chief executive from each entity, so Ruth Dillon and David Everett, Amy Weiser, and myself as city and county staff, and then Ben Riley as the director of the Housing Authority. We reviewed the proposal, and I think we all felt very confident that the firm that did submit a proposal, BAE Urban Economics, was competent and highly qualified and had the experience that we were looking for. We did identify several elements in the original proposal that we wanted clarification on and had some questions about. So the selection committee tasked Amy Weiser and myself to follow up with BAE Urban Economics and get those questions answered, which they did to our satisfaction. And so then I, via email, asked the selection committee how to proceed, and was directed to go forward in negotiating with BAE Urban Economics on the costs associated with their proposal. And I want to just acknowledge Councilman Trim for helping in that regard in terms of framing some of the language and really focusing on certain elements of the proposed budget that we could reduce costs in. And that negotiation was effective. We were able to bring the cost down about $6,000. And so here's the way that the proposal is structured. Rather than signing up at the outset to pay $80,000, the firm has allowed us to go forward in a phased approach. And I think this is advantageous for the city and the county to go this pathway. The second phase would be available to the city and the county at our sole discretion. And so we are basically locking in that price right now, and should we choose to complete that second phase, then we already know what we're paying for. So the first phase is a feasibility study. This is where the firm will evaluate the feasibility of adopting a mandatory assured housing or inclusionary zoning policy, depending on the nomenclature you'd like to use. And based on the findings from that phase, the city and the county will have better information to determine whether the second and more expensive portion of the study is worth doing, essentially. And so right now you would only be committing to sharing in half the cost of the feasibility study, and at the conclusion of that phase, then I'd come back to you. Well, I'm not going to come back to you, but the firm will come back to us with the findings. They will present those findings. We can have a discussion about the implications of those findings, and then make a decision on how to go forward from there. So, the first phase is $33,000 and some change, and again, the city and the county would be sharing in that cost.
Okay.
And that was sharing equally, wasn't it? 50-50.
Yep.
Mary?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve the contract with BAE Urban Economics to conduct market feasibility and possibly a nexus analysis study for Moab City and Grand County, and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Mary's made the motion. Greg is seconding the motion. Any more discussion?
Yeah, a couple things. I appreciate you guys being willing to break this into phases. I really like that approach. I think that's a sound way to move forward. And also, one sentence stuck out to me that I really liked in the cover letter by BAE Urban Economics, where, quote, "Our work is crafted to calibrate a balance between achieving much-needed affordable housing without dampening the profit incentive to stimulate development." That really speaks to me and brings a level of comfort, and so I look forward to some results.
Yeah, this firm has done similar studies in some of the largest markets around the country and some of the smallest, from New York City to Lake Tahoe and Truckee, and places that are probably more similar to our community and economic structure. So I feel very confident in their abilities to provide what we need.
It's a big firm. It appears they've got offices.
Yeah, it probably looks bigger than it actually is. I think there's probably a handful of people in each office.
Yeah, they're in different markets.
Yeah.
Was there a time frame in the contract?
So the first phase, we're looking at a final report in mid-December, and then probably no action would be taken in terms of moving on the next phase if we choose to do that. But if we chose to do that, and we were able to exercise that option, if you will, then we'd probably add on another 6 to 8 weeks. So looking at end of February to end of March, that range.
Okay. Thank you. Just as a reminder, Mary made the motion, Greg seconded it to approve the contract with BAE Urban Economics. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
I'm staying up here for a little bit.
Yeah, item O is again community development staff adopting a proposed resolution approving a replat amending lots 1, 3, and 4 in the Puesta del Sol subdivision located on Arena Roja.
Sure. So this is pretty straightforward. This is a replat application because the subdivision has already been platted, and so this is the only application option that the applicants have available to them. Basically, we're looking at making 3 lots into 2. The application has met all of the county's replat requirements, and so it's just in need of
I move to approve proposed resolution approving the plat of Lot 3A in the White Horse subdivision planned unit development located on Shadowfax Road and authorize the chair to sign.
We'll get to that one next.
I zipped, I was on the right one.
Agenda item O.
One up from that.
I must have skipped it.
Could I make a motion?
Yes.
Sure.
I move to adopt the proposed resolution approving the replat of Lot 1, 3, and 4 in the Puesta del Sol subdivision located on Arena Roja and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank
Second.
you. Councilman Clappers made the motion. Councilman Wells seconds the motion. Any more discussion? Councilman Taxman has left the room. All in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Next, agenda item P, proposed resolution approving a replat amending Lot 3A in the White Horse subdivision.
Okay, so this is another fairly straightforward administrative approval. The application meets all of the county's requirements for a replat. We have not received any concerning public comment. Staff doesn't have any issues. This is an interesting application in that we had two lots that were made into one, and now the owner wants to make them into two lots again. Property owners have the right to do that, and while it's not necessarily the cheapest, most efficient way to deal with your land, it's anybody's prerogative. So.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman McGann, would you like to make a motion?
I move to adopt the proposed resolution approving the replat of Lot 3A in the White Horse subdivision planned unit development located at Shadowfax Run and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. And Councilman Gregg seconds the motion. Mary makes the motion. Gregg seconds it. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion carries 6-0, again with Mr. Paxman temporarily out of the chambers. Okay, thank you. That brings us to our consent agenda. Have two? Yeah. 2 items ratifying the chair's signature on professional services agreement between Grand County and Armstrong Consultants for professional engineering services for runway upgrades, and ratifying the chair's signature on automatic debit, credit, and money transmission agreement form from Tech Friends Incorporated for inmate commissary funds management.
I move
Curtis.
to adopt the consent agenda as presented and authorize the chair to sign all associated documents.
Thank you. Curtis has made the motion. Rory seconds the motion. Discussion. I'll just say I'm disappointed in the fees. A weekly management fee from that company.
Yeah, for the inmates. It's,
you could go broke really fast sustaining that.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All opposed? 1. Motion carries 6-1 with Councilman Evan opposed. Okay. And that brings us to Bryony Hill. Council Office Coordinator, calendar items, and public notices.
All right, for your October calendars, tomorrow, October 4th, is the active shooter training, and there's 3 times, 9 a.m., 1 p.m., or 7 p.m., and they're 2 hours long.
Question on that. They would like some of us to be at one of those. Is that the suggested idea of one?
Only if you don't want to get shot.
I think they would like everybody to attend, if they can.
But not each one.
No.
Oh, no, it's the same training. There's, all 3 of them are the same training, so attend one of them. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Tomorrow, October 4th at 12 p.m., the Governor's Economic Development meeting, and that's at the City Chambers. Friday, October 6th at 11 a.m. is the grand opening and ribbon cutting at the ball field at OSA. October 11th, budget meeting with is the Southeastern Utah Water Workshop at Moab Valley Inn. That's at 9:30. And then there's an agenda flyer attached as well to your packet. October 19th is the Performance Review Committee meeting, and Rory, are you still able to attend that one?
What day was that?
You know.
We were talking so much,
You were not in the room, you don't know where you're
So that's a yes.
Yes.
October 26th, Canyon Country Partnership, and that's at the Green River History Museum. October 31st, Council Administrative Workshop, if needed. Any?
What's that? Council Administrative Workshop?
Yeah, so they're held every fifth Tuesday of the month, when there is a fifth Tuesday, if needed. You guys can decide if needed.
That was ridiculous. They're held every fifth Tuesday of the month if there is a fifth Tuesday.
When there is a fifth Tuesday.
Right, if needed. So is that just the general workshops we schedule?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
If we have something we want to workshop and talk about, that's a good time to
That's
do it.
just a placeholder.
Right.
Okay.
Is there something you wish to talk about?
Not at this moment, just the fifth Tuesday of... I wasn't
There's only
sure if that
4 a
was
year.
What? Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was different than just the workshops we schedule, or...
Okay.
Moving on.
Go ahead, Brian.
November 7th is the city general election, and then because our regular meeting is on the 7th, we will be needing to move that to November 8th, so mark your calendars.
And we will also change the planning commission location. Made a note about that. November 8th, Wednesday, November 8th, the county council will need the chambers because of the election on Tuesday the 7th. So that date will need to change for planning commission, or the location will need to move. County council is meeting November 8th, Wednesday, because your bylaws say that when there's an election, you all need to meet the next day, not the election day. And I was just pointing out to Zachariah that planning commission therefore needs to move out of the council chambers on that 8th. Oh yeah, it'll be a regular meeting. Yeah. It's a regular meeting, yeah.
Maybe we could combine them.
No.
Sure.
Just cancel the plan.
Back to you, Bryony.
November 10th is Veterans Day observed, so county offices will be closed. November 14th at 10 a.m. is the canvass of the election. November 15th through the 17th is UAC annual conference, and that is at the Dixie Center. The agenda and the overview are attached as well to your packet.
St. George.
November 23rd and 24th is a Thanksgiving holiday, and county offices will be closed. So the ALG meeting and the Canyon Lines Healthcare Special Service District meeting, does anybody know if those are going to be canceled? I don't know if it's on the board.
I don't think they'll have a quorum, so.
Well,
I doubt they'll cancel them. I cancel them. I think they will, at least for the healthcare district, I think they'll move them.
So move it, okay.
I'm not sure about the ALG, but we'll soon find out.
Okay. And that is it for November. Any corrections?
I have a random question. Do you happen to know if school for Veterans Day, if they're off Friday or Monday? Thanks for nothing.
We thought you were
on the 11th, right.
The calendar queen.
I know the county, every meeting.
On the 11th is the homeless coordinating meeting from 1 to... On the 11th will be the homeless coordinating meeting. We're having a special meeting on the 11th.
November?
No, it's October. I meant to tell you. This next Wednesday from 12, from 1 to 3. 1 to 3.
Is that at Zion?
At Zion.
Okay. What time is it at?
1 to 3.
Which day?
The 11th. forgot to mention it when we were going through all this.
Okay.
Special events coming up in October. 6th through the 8th is Outer Bike. 13th through the 15th is Destination 200. The 15th, the other half. 20th through the 21st, High School Mountain Bike Race. 26th, Jeep Jamboree. 27th through the 29th, Moab Canyons Endurance Run. And then November 4th through the 5th is Trail Marathon. The 18th is Dead Horse Ultra, and 22nd through the 23rd is GGBY. That's a slack lining event.
What happened to the Hoedown? Weren't they on here before?
These are events that are permitted by Greene County.
So they didn't need one?
Either they weren't in Greene County or they did not need one.
I thought they were on our list before.
Yeah, they were, and they are in Greene County.
Then they were probably under 100.
Yeah.
Under 100.
100 participants that are gathered in one location at one time.
Yes.
And they have to pay a fee also.
Right, so these are the events that are being permitted by Greene County. They're not on this list and they don't need a permit.
So why were they on, I guess the question is, why were they on the list before and why aren't they now?
Because the list before had all of them that were just in Greene County that did not need to be permitted. If you guys would prefer every single event in Greene County, I can certainly add them on there.
No. It's a valid question. I do want to know what the school district's calendar is like.
I'll get that.
There's all room for improvement, constructive criticism.
All right, Board or District volunteer vacancies, Airport Board, Boundary Commission, Historical Preservation Commission, Housing Authority of Southeastern Utah, Library Board, Travel Council, Noxious Weed Control Planning Commission, Public Health Board, Canyonlands Healthcare District, Moab Mosquito Abatement, Transportation District, Recreation District, and Solid Waste District.
Are there any that don't have vacancies, I wonder?
There are a handful.
Yeah. We've got more boards than that.
Employment Opportunities, EMT Basic closes September 30th. Greene County Sheriff's Office, Assistant Food Service Manager in the jail. Corrections Officer, Patrol Deputy, Communications Dispatch. All those close September 30th. Library Clerk, part-time, closes October 6th. And Noxious Weed Control Technician, seasonal, closes October 31st. And this is the flyer and the agenda for the Southeastern Utah Water Workshop that's at Moore Valley Inn. And then also the UAC agenda and the overview of the convention. Who's all planning to go to UAC?
Probably.
Anyone else? I'll put you down as a maybe.
Although I might have to give my $100 to the homeless.
Alright, that's all I got.
Thanks,
Okay,
Brian.
thank you. Okay. Discussion item. Item T, discussion regarding recent flooding in Spanish Valley. Bill Jackson, Roads and Bridges Supervisor.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So in light of September 14th storm, which I guess Saturday you had one similar, just hit the same place. But really I think it's a good time to just bring up storm drainage master plan. In particular, I think because we're starting, or into the budget, and probably be a good idea to be thinking in terms of storm drainage budgeting. As you know, we had some money budgeted for a project, and we're going to CID and hopefully get what we need there for Jackson Street project. But if you ever had a chance to look at the 2011 updated storm drainage master plan and you know, it's a pretty good document.
Here it is. Full of maps.
The telling of the tale is page 74, and it breaks down some of the costs. And it's there on the agenda summary, not in great detail.
Is this on the website, Ruth?
Yes, it is. It's under community development, actually.
And so there's quite a bit of projects out there that has been identified through this updated master plan. And it seems in the past when these projects have been brought up and the dollar amounts, everybody's jaws are off. And I mean, it's a lot of money, no doubt. So it's just, you know, it's kind of like you just got to take off a chunk at a time and work on what you can. So that's what we've been attempting to do over the last few years anyway. But you just need the funding. That's really what it comes down to. Any questions?
Questions?
I got one. Bill, after we had Rick's Glass come, and Rick and Cindy, they came and talked to us about that road. What's that road that goes up there? What's that one called? Boulder. I thought, well, I'm gonna go just take a look and see what it looks like there. And I mean, it's pretty serious coming down through there. I mean, it was pretty amazing looking at the flooding down through there, just driving past it. But I was talking with one of the state guys because I was actually wondering how we could get it through the highway there. But they've already got a culvert. They said that they've already put underneath there. Did you know that they had a culvert there? Yeah. So I was wondering if there was any way we could add that into our CIB by any way.
Well, that's a whole different drainage system there. You're talking about Boulder versus Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackson's a whole different project, a whole different outfall conveyance system. But you're correct, that 48-inch culvert was put in there. If I'm not mistaken, it was 2009 or 10, somewhere when they did the reconstruction through that 191 corridor there. Problem is, it was put in under the pre-master plan criteria specifications. Now, the 2011 updated calls for a 72-inch culvert. So there's the wall. You know, I mean, it's not like you can't get over the wall. You can put two 48 inches, another 48 inch under there. You know, but the price just
have
went.
To go through there, and now the price went up.
Yeah. So those are the issues that if you become familiar with this plan, you'll see them. It's called out in there for the most part. So quite a few years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, the idea of all this money that needs to be spent on storm drainage, we got to just start taking a bite at a time. And essentially, it was determined that Jackson Street does not have any infrastructure whatsoever. That amount of water that was seen on Boulder has been seen on Jackson Street. I don't know how many times. So that's the project that was chosen. In my estimation, Boulder, and I want to be careful how I do this, but I believe the Boulder detention basin is undersized. I think it was evident in that storm. We have another basin, storm drainage basin on top of the Overlook Road, just southeast of there, same storm, handled the water fine. So, and the debris and everything stayed right there. So
that's right behind Yield Geyser. That's over there.
Was it question?
Yes.
Is that the dam that the gentleman was referring to the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and help me with some context, Bill, because you were here for that meeting. So he was defending the dam, correct?
Correct.
And because it's He was defending it from what? From who?
Don't know.
John just said it wasn't up to par.
Well, it was built to the engineered specification as far as the construction, but it don't have that capacity that it needs for that drainage.
And
it don't hold enough acre foot. I'm sorry.
He was also pointing out that most of that flooding wasn't coming through the dam. It was coming from a different source.
No, that's not true.
Oh, no.
No, it topped over that dam. It would come right down that drainage and plugged everything up and went over the top.
What was his incentive to defend the dam?
It would be speculation on my part if I said.
I guess I just don't. I can't wrap my mind around why he was in here. I mean, what? Yeah.
These projects they're listed out in the master plan. Are these prioritized, or is that just by geography, or?
They are prioritized in the master plan.
So A would be your next. If we're just going to chip away at it, start at the top of the list and work our way down.
Well, that would be ideally if you're at the top of the list. That project is, I think, if off the top of my head, it's $1.4 million. So, yeah, if you have $1.4 million, do the project.
I think
so you gotta, go to where you can do.
I think weren't we saving up money so we could do something like that?
Well, we did get $200,000 saved
we were trying to save
for Jackson Street, and that's why we finally, after all these years, got a little money. Finally went. We can't do anything without match money. That's why I had it on the council agenda last time.
Curtis.
I think what's maybe missing in some of this, and you hinted at it, is I'm no meteorologist by trade, but in talking with people and calls and people that are frustrated about the lack of flood mitigation, it's not like every rainstorm is the same rainstorm hits in the same area. Our monsoon season, you just get these heavy rainstorms in certain areas. There's always since the beginning of Moab, there's always been areas where there's major flooding happens in monsoon season. Sometimes it's mitigated by preemptive measures, sometimes it's not, but there seems to be a narrative that we don't currently have the appropriate planning in place, and citizens are not receiving adequate service because of that. And I think that lacks context of just the way monsoon season occurs in Moab. It's been like this since the beginning of time.
Well,
we live in a valley on the edge of two rims, big hills. It's going to come down.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I did reach out to the National Weather Service, Jim Pringle in particular, and tried to get a precipitation amount specifically for that location the best he could through radar, and it didn't turn out real well as far as you can't hardly tell what the radar was saying and whatnot. But can I read you his email? And it says, we were able to obtain the radar precipitation estimates for the rainfall event which caused the flooding in Moab. The interesting thing to see is that the amount of estimated rainfall detected by our radar was significantly less than the amounts that were measured in rain gauges in portions of Moab and Casa Valley that day. Goes on to say the radars was picking up like 0.60 to 0.70 of an inch when rain gauges were 1.10. I've heard anecdotally, grapevine type deal. No, man, we're getting 2 inches in my rain gauge. Keep in mind, if you were out in that particular storm, that microburst, the rain was horizontal. It wasn't dropping straight down, into the rain gauge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There was a lot of rain in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Nothing unusual. I mean, that was a pretty hard one, no doubt. It's not the first time it's ever happened here.
Brad?
Question on that 48-inch culvert running underneath 191. Are the storms maxing that out now or not?
Rich, it's plugged on both ends. It's not in use.
Not in use.
It was actually put in for the Boulder conveyance system, but now it doesn't fit the criteria.
And there isn't any way to use it?
Yeah, you could put another one beside it, you could double barrel it, but you still have, crossover under 191 again.
No.
Why is it plugged?
Why is it plugged? Yeah.
Because there's no pipe running to it.
Because there's no pipe down below and no pipe up above.
So it just runs over the top instead.
They just put it there.
Yeah, they just put it there for future use.
In the future.
Yeah.
And do we, I assume there's drain plans for other areas of the county besides Spanish Valley?
Say that one more time.
Do we have separate plans for other drainage issues outside of Spanish Valley?
No.
Okay. I'm curious whose responsibility it is in the city limits.
Yeah,
The city has their plans.
And Castle Valley would have their own, but Thompson Springs is left, I think they're in pretty good shape.
Greg.
They're left high and dry.
So
they're sitting pretty good. They don't have anything, but they've got one major wash coming out of Thompson there. They're above it pretty good.
So the question I have then is, what would it take to hook into that existing 48-inch culvert?
About $500,000.
500,000. It's still cheaper than putting a 6-footer in there.
Oh no, you'd still have to do the 72-inch. That's what the criteria calls for. You can't underbuild it, or the county would be very liable.
But it's already there.
Unless you put another one beside it and use both of them. But you would be putting yourself in this county up for liabilities if you built something undersized.
But aren't we liable now for the fact that water's going over the top and not through the culvert?
Well, there is no culvert. There's no full conveyance system. So anyway, this storm, what I'm saying is this storm that happened, if that 48-inch had been in the whole system, down through there, it wouldn't have handled that water.
It wouldn't have taken it.
No. I'm not 100% sure 72 is really,
Yeah, when you got boulders rolling.
It's a big storm. It's a big storm coming down on the side of the hill.
Okay. Thank you for the information. Any last comments?
Where do we go from here?
What?
Are we just going to continue with putting money aside, or are we going to start looking at further CIB grants?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And I haven't read the storm drainage plan by admittance, Bill. So this may be a stupid question, but it seems like to me the areas where there's some consistency in storm drainage, that's where we would prioritize projects over time. If there's a way to measure and calculate where those consistent drainage patterns are from the heavy rainfall. That's from a 50,000-foot view, and that doesn't answer Mary's question, but that's the only way I can, in my mind, and that may already exist, these major drainage, mitigation projects where we see the majority of the drainage happening in the valley within the county. Those projects might already be taken care of. As a council, I think, my point is we don't have any way to rank. I don't think we have a current system in place or previous knowledge to rank the areas that have gotten hit the hardest and what the county's done in the past 5 decades to manage those things. This is just a frame of reference to the latest storm that came along, and we got some comments on it, and here we are.
Yeah. Well, just for a little background, since 2001 or 2, the county has built approximately 12 detention basins in various drainages, which was in the previous master plan.
Yeah.
And so there are some county maintained detention basins and related infrastructures. But in your master plan, it does call out, I can't remember the exact page, but basically how they ranked the priority projects. So, you've got input for the county, you got for rankings, you got residential inundation, commercial inundation, property damage, those kind of things when they do their study. and that kind of helps you prioritize what projects you want done first.
Yeah.
And it's all in here, how they've done that. And so it's essentially the bottom line comes down to funding.
Yeah.
So if you went strictly, literally by what the plan said for rankings, like I said, 1.5 million would put a trunk line down Spanish Valley Drive and over to Pack Creek, mitigating that Rim Village area and areas in between.
Yeah.
I believe that's a 64, and that might be a 72-inch building also.
I would just like to, before we let Bill go, acknowledge him being available and ready. I had a citizen call me with a business on Main Street within the city that was getting hammered by a flooding issue that's a city project, but they weren't getting, they reached out to me and wanted to have, a representative on site to see, and I called Bill, and Bill was there within 10 minutes to meet me there, and I just appreciate that, and I know the citizen appreciated that, and I think that says a lot about our guy. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
One more comment.
Sure.
I was on the road Saturday. I got caught in that downpour.
128?
Yeah, on 128, and I called that into the sheriff's office, and had them call UDOT, because that's state road. But then I had them also call the county, because Pace Hill had a foot of mud, rock, and debris on it. So, when I was coming back, your guy was out there working on it. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Because people with the low car could not have made it through that. So, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Phil, Mike, appreciate that.
Yep.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, well, this moves us to the public hearing portion of our meeting. We have a public hearing today to hear public input on a proposed ordinance for rezone of property for 127 acres of range and grazing to resort special, located at mile marker 135.4, Highway 191, across from Bar M Chuck Wagon. Zachariah.
Well, while he's coming up, if I could just say that the paved path also flooded pretty bad. I don't know if you saw it right near the transit hub where it goes under. Along Goose Island, there was quite a bit of water sitting there. So Marvin and crew have been cleaning that one up. So just so you know what's happening.
We had a waterfall behind our house.
It's too bad because it's my favorite season, Laura. It's absolutely gorgeous stuff. It creates a lot of work.
Well, you don't get this much rain.
Okay, Zachariah.
Okay, so this is a public hearing, as you noted, for a requested rezone of 127 acres of land located at mile marker 135 across from the Bar and Chuck Wagon area. The application is presented by the property owner Lillian Balsley and Tracy Balsley. The existing zone is range grazing, and the requested rezone is resort special. The impetus for this rezone request, I believe, is that the Balsley property, which is at the start of the Gemini Bridges Road, where it comes into Highway 191, has been used as a parking and staging area for a long time, and users have begun to camp in that area, and the current property owner has attempted to prevent that, but isn't out there every day, all day, preventing that from happening. Tracy has done quite a bit of cleanup on the property to try to mitigate the impacts of the camping, but if you've driven by there, you've probably seen that there's quite a bit of activity. That is certainly an illegal use. It's an approved campground and violates the county's code. So the property owner has requested a rezone to resort special in order to accommodate a campground on that property. Of course, when you are considering rezones, it is never advisable to make your review and decision on the basis of what is being proposed, but rather on what could be allowed on that property, because once the property is rezoned, then the owner is allowed to do whatever is permitted within that zone district. So I just want to make sure that that is clear. There isn't any public water or sewer service in the area. Developments outside of those service areas need to develop public water and sewer systems that are approved by the state. Oftentimes, the state water resources director will review and either approve or make recommendations in order to approve those systems. Some of the other developments in that area haul water, and many of them have septic.
Can you back up and explain who approves that?
The state. So, in the staff report, our recommendation is to approve the rezone, and I want to just provide a little bit more context there. I think that the council could also consider rezoning less than 127 acres. The purpose of the rezone is to accommodate a campground. I don't anticipate that they would need 127 acres and probably wouldn't intend to do that. The applicant is here, and I will let them speak for themselves. But that is something that the county council could consider. There are multiple parcels within this request, and so that is something that the council can consider. Not all of the property falls within the North Corridor Recreation Area, which is part of our future land use plan map. Part of it does, and so that's also part of the reason why I make that point. I bring up the compatibility with our general plan because that is, first and foremost, the document that we look to for advice in terms of rezones. And in this case, it is in the vicinity of the North Corridor Recreation overlay. There are other businesses and developments occurring in that area, and so it is compatible with the other types of developments that are taking place in there. We don't have any that are that large. What we've got is like the Moab Giants Dinosaur Museum, the proposed Handlebar Ranch across the way. We've got the Archview Campground, and just up the road from there a little bit, the Moab Under Canvas. So that's the type of development that people are proposing there. I won't go through every other aspect of the review that staff does when looking at rezone. I'll just say that the Planning Commission did forward a favorable recommendation. They did not take up this issue of rezoning less than 127 acres. And I will be honest, I haven't spoken with the applicant about that possibility, and I apologize for bringing this up now without having talked to you at all. But perhaps you could comment on that idea. Just given the large size of the current rezone request. So that's all I've got. I will note that should the applicant choose to go forward with a campground application, then we would review that in the same way that we review other campground applications. So it's not like it's a done deal that they would get that approval. And again, you're not really reviewing the rezone on the basis of the campground. There is a Union Pacific Railroad that crosses the property, as you know. The railroad has a right-of-way, and any development that occurs there formally is going to have to be shared with the railroad, and they will have to comment on it. So
assuming we're talking about all parcels labeled falsely? Okay. All right. Dan, would you like to come up and speak to the council? Tell us your name, please.
Tracy Baldwin.
Okay.
Lillian actually owns the property. We're back there, but I'm going to inherit the property. Yes, people have been parking on it. We use it as a stationary area for people to go four-wheeling and people started camping. I actually made little spots where they could just park their stuff there, go have a picnic, whatever. The entire property is 127 acres. We just probably rezoned it all at one time. It goes across the highway by Bar and Chuck Wagon. It goes west also, butts up to Salt property. We just thought we'd do the entire thing at one time, but yes, what would be used right now, and it's not really a campground, it's just dry camping. There is no water there. So the fault line goes through. I'm a well driller, that's why I'm dirty. I drilled a ton of wells out there, there's no water there. I'm actually drilling the Bar and Chuck Wagon's well right now across the fault line and looking for water to do their project, hopefully. And their project will not go through if I don't find water for them. You know, they can't haul that amount of water to do their project. So yeah, it would be under consideration that the area that I would be looking at right now would be probably 80 acres compared to 127 acres that would actually be used for a dry campground. And I'm supplying trash dumpsters and porta potties for people that come and go, and they fill up. I even talked to the county council or the travel council about helping me pay for those because everybody going down the highway uses my toilet, throws their garbage away. You know, it's a big expense there, so I'm just trying to get it down to make it into the property that needs to be. And I don't want a huge 3-story complex of hotel, motel, crap put in there. I think it would destroy the views in the whole area and just keep it low impact. You know, everybody that parks there says thank you. Right now, there is nowhere to park in this entire town, anywhere in camp, motorhome. People are parking at the old truck stop upside town. It's illegal to park there. They're parking there. They're parking City Market. They're parking everywhere right now. There's just nowhere. You know, so it is a really needed spot there. Hopefully it'll work out for me. So.
Comments from the council, Curtis?
I don't have any comments. I'm ready to make a motion.
This is a public hearing.
Oh.
Make a motion to suspend the rules. But I think we should talk about the size. I think that's not a bad idea. Look at.
Were you making a motion to suspend the rules or what?
Yeah, what's the verbiage that needs to go into that other than suspend the rules and then make my motion? Is that just it? I move to suspend the rules and then move forward with the motion? I'm looking at my administrator.
Then we need a second on the first motion to suspend the rules.
Right.
And we need to leave time for public comment. Any members of the public out there wish to comment? Okay.
It is a parking lot already. I have a license for a parking lot.
I'll watch that.
People park there. And in fact, the Moab High School cycling program is being parked there in 2 weeks with 1,500 cars.
Yeah, it's the Utah
property.
Yeah.
You know, that just more and more people are trying to rent that property from them constantly, and that's don't have to do it, I guess. Other than that, I put a fence down the road and then people just drive through.
Kurt.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Is there a second? Rory seconds the motion to suspend the rules. All in favor? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay.
So any opposed?
Any opposed? 1, 2, 3. Okay. But that's sufficient to pass the motion, right? Okay.
That's what my question was.
Yeah, if we needed a mega majority or whatever it's called.
I thought. I
wait a minute. No,
with suspending the rules, you need.
You do have to have 5. Sorry, you have to have 2/3.
Yeah.
I like the project, and
As do I.
I like the public comment period too. So I think folks should have a chance to say on. But I think you're on the right track, and I would echo Mary that maybe not the whole 100, and you threw out the number 80s or you know. But I like your vision. I like your allowing people to pass through there and stuff. So.
It's even it's supposed to be a county road through there to Gemini Bridge, but that is nowhere on the plat anywhere that that's a county road. It's actually my property. I don't need to allow access to people to go to Gemini Bridge through it. I can put up a gate and stop everybody. The original road was down the way, and then the railroad went through and changed that. So, like I said, people. Now I just have to put up signs. Please don't do donuts in my parking lot. Please don't tear anything up.
They do it in our asphalt parking lot, so you'll
really
never get that stuff.
So
Madam Chair?
Calm down quite rapidly.
Yes, Mary.
I just wanted to express my thanks, that I think what you're doing and your idea is, commendable, and I look forward to it.
Kurt?
Yeah, I would echo that, and that you're making a lot of concessions that are just for the the betterment of the community and the recreators and whatnot. But my takeaway from the dialogue of the board and staff is that I guess when we vote on this, be prepared to come back and engage in dialogue with the board, because it's clear that there's not a lot of support, in my opinion, for you to have the entire 127 acres rezoned, is what I'm hearing. So that would be the nature of the discussion, in my opinion, once we resume.
And I'm not, it's staff, I'm not trying to indicate that it should or shouldn't. I just think that, there's an opportunity for a conversation there.
And that was echoed by fellow board members. So, but I'm glad that you offered up that you're doing a lot of good out of the kindness of your heart to allow people to access trails and things on your property. So, thank you.
Yeah, so it's like I said, it'd be probably 80 or 90 acres, which would include both sides of the highway, but then there's, I think, 40 left that actually side panels or a fenced-in area that continues back that we probably wouldn't really need to be at this point changed. So, we could get the exact amount of acres to what we changed.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
for working
so much.
with us. Thank you.
It is a public hearing.
Yes. And with that, we will close this. What? Oh, I already asked. I'm ahead of you this time.
My apologies.
With that, we will close this portion of the public hearing for verbal comments and keep it open until the 11th of October. Is that correct, Ruth?
That's right. Let me double check. Yes, that's correct.
For written comments until 5 p.m. on October 11th. Those written comments can be submitted to the council via email, council@grandcountyutah.net, or hand-delivered here, or what else, Ruth?
Mailed at 125 East Center Street.
Mailed at 125 East Center Street. Thank you. And thank you. That brings us to General Council reports and future considerations. Let's start with Greg tonight, please.
Was in the interlocal housing task force yesterday. Still working on that land donation. Trying to figure out how to make that legal and take care of that. that meeting on the 21st of the fire department, and that worked out pretty good. We're talking about basically it's hazmat type things, and the state was there. They presented a thing on some training that we could do, and that was all I got.
Okay, thank you. Mary.
Okay. When I attended the Moab Area Water Partnership, they talked a lot about Ravenna, I believe that's how it's pronounced, grass, and how, the work of getting rid of that and working with property owners, because it seems to be more in properties down here than it is in other counties where it's spread out of the private property and is moving on. So they really want to deal with it before it does that, where you end up with a lot more work and money and expense if it gets to where it's growing outside of private property. So that was discussed. The water board, I went to the water study where they talked about what they have discovered. It was very interesting, and I think the takeaway that I got from it, to make it short and sweet because it was quite complicated, was there's a significant less water going into our system than originally thought. In 1971, they thought there was 22,000 acres, and there's only 14. So that's a significant amount. So that means that water rights and such have to be really studied, because right now we probably have more water guaranteed or, to people than we have to give. The good takeaway, the good side was that we are not using more than's being put in. So that was really good news. We're looking good. Every year our water table is replenished, and that's thanks to the LaSalle Mountains and it's mostly our Pack Creek drainage that we're not getting because of a hard layer. We're not getting anything off the sand flats like was originally thought. So that was pretty interesting. I went for Curtis as his alternative to the ALG meeting. It was Moab is not taking advantage of weatherization that other counties are. We are and we have a lot of places that qualify because they qualify if they can get heating subsidies. And a lot of people get heating subsidies. The situation they think is happening is, because there's 600 people involved who qualify for this, where they would come in and 600 places, not people, so 600 residents. They would come in and weatherize the place so that it would cost less to heat or to cool. The situation they think is that they don't believe we are communicating with landlords well enough to get them to understand that they can apply for it and get it, even though they might not be low income. If their tenants are, they can, and then it will increase their property value and make their structures better. So I think there's going to be a kind of a campaign and a work to get that out to people that own property that are renting it out to people that are low income. So that was pretty interesting. Went with Ruth, and you were there, to the Dark Skies. That was very interesting and an enjoyable presentation. They're going to get their findings for Grand County to us. They got their city's findings, and they've already given them their recommendations and what they should do. They're finalizing what Grand County should do, and they will get it to us to, let us know. But we're looking good. Our ordinances are good. Our Dark Skies are good. I thought it was amazing. This is a bit of trivia. I thought this was pretty entertaining. There are more lights around HMK building than there is in the entire city of Bluff. I said that was on public buildings. I thought, wow, that says a lot. But they did comment on how HMK has a lot of their lights on a timer so they go off, which is really nice, so that it's not interfering with the dark skies all night. Plus, it's an energy, a good thing to do. So that's all.
Thank you. Evan?
I attended the library board meeting. Very motivated group of individuals. We have been editing the library strategic plan, and they are a bunch of wordies. So we spent long debating single word usage. So that's going back to like the third or fourth draft, I believe, and we're going to have a special workshop on that later in October. One of the interesting things from the library is they were revising their fee schedule to, tis the season because it's a county fee, and they have decided to stop with late fees. So if you know anybody that's avoiding the library because they owe fees or whatever, they can go back. There was a bunch of studies. They did a ton of research, and it's just not worth it to them to collect fees or late fees for a variety of reasons.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes.
So the county council will be adopting the fee schedule ordinance for all the departments and offices, and so you guys will get to weigh in on whether you want that or not. So that'll be coming in the next month or so.
Okay. Is there a recommendation
to
there
you go.
To get rid of
cease and desist with late fees?
How much were the late fees added up?
So the total number looks pretty big, but when you compare it to the man hours and the policing and the big thing that really struck home with me is the people that it affects the most, that are worried about the late fees, are the people that really struggle to pay $1 or whatever, and it's just a shame that if $1's not $1 to you, it's no big deal, and the fee's not going to make you bring your book back any sooner. And the people that are really scared of late fees are the folks that could benefit from library services the most. So there was a whole other thing. I'm happy to forward you the study. It was actually an interesting read.
So there will be no due dates in effect, right?
Well, no, it's
the due dates
will be in effect. Thing, It's like on your honor. You can't just buy your way out of it now. You'll have internal guilt and shame that you.
Okay, well put.
I also attended the Planning Commission this last week. They were revisiting the bed and breakfast ordinances, and they decided to table that stuff until they had odd number of members, because they did a straw poll and they were kind of split on some items included in that. Basically, there was 2 tracks they could go with it, and they couldn't agree between the 6 of them which one made the most sense. So they decided to table it until after our appointment tonight. There was also a large group in attendance from one of the neighborhoods in response to the FLUP, the Future Land Use Planning, and they had felt like they got word of the workshops too late and weren't informed, and I hesitate to call it an angry mob, but it was very well attended. How about that? And there was some emotional.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of a spicy meeting.
What neighborhood was that? Was it Roberts Road area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Did they call that Hilltop, or is that a separate one, or?
No.
Yeah. So it was up in that area. It had been on the draft. Now it's kind of set aside as some more high density areas, and a lot of people had bought property there because they appreciated the rural setting, and so.
It's an overlay district, though, right? It's not.
Yes, I think a lot because they were coming to the table late with it. I don't think they fully understood what was going on. So they have all been invited, to participate. We might see some more participation from that neighborhood specifically, but if we get letters to the council or whatever, that's kind of what that's about. So.
I've seen a few letters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Curtis.
Well, first I'll start with the water district because we kind of went over the findings of the study and we had some information from USGS, and I'm hearing Mary's report, which I don't, the facts don't wrong, and listening to the papers cover it, it's still the context I don't think is accurate in the way we described it as a water district. And so there was a study done in the 70s, and Mary noted that estimated 20,000 acre-feet of water. Everyone's kind of attached themselves to that. But the USGS estimate going into the study was between 13,000 and 17,000 acre-feet.
They decided that from the beginning.
And so that's really kind of the ballpark. And so to date, so given that the study was between 12,000 and 14,000 acre-feet of water, Moab City's usage in 2016 was 1,800 acre-feet. Grand County's through the water district was 888 acre-feet. And San Juan's was their water district, which is brand new, is 0. So the total of that was 2,700 acre-feet.
And that's why that was allotted or usage?
Irrigation was 800 acre-feet, and small domestic wells was 400 acre-feet. So the grand total of water usage was 3,900 acre-feet in 2016. So we're currently using, a quarter of what's just been recently, or slightly more or less than what was just recently, a third, if not a little less, of what's been, the findings of the study at 3,900 acre-feet. The remaining water rights, so if you take those 20,000, or excuse me, not the 20,000 estimate, but there has been an over-appropriation of water rights if you take what was appropriated and what exists, but they're owned by the municipalities mentioned, and then a good number of them have been abandoned by small domestic users. So it's not a crisis, I guess, is what the takeaway faced by the facts, and also because there's so much a lack of developable land, we're all, we have very little private land. There's really not any feasible development scenario where we even come close to half of the recent estimate. So I think if you're a skeptic or you're a water conservationist, whoever, it's good news.
It's great news.
The findings is good news. There's been letters coming in saying, this is an absolute crisis because of the 20,000 estimate, but really we have plenty of water and not a remotely feasible ability to develop and use what exists. Now the other big takeaway, and that's the goal of this study, and what's great is now and moving forward, all of the mentioned entities can have real plans with real numbers. So if you're the city at 1,800 acre-feet a year, you know what you're using, you know what's available, and you can factor in your water rights and come up with a good plan. Grand County will do the same. And then San Juan County, who's looking to develop in Spanish Valley, they have real numbers to work with. And so I would imagine that anyone, including the decision makers for all those entities that's interested in water conservation, will participate in those, the public processes and whatnot. So it's a good day to have good data. We did discuss at the water district. Of course, there's scientists from USGS that always are looking for more money to study more things. That's just part of life. But they do have some requests to collect some more data that can be leveraged in an effective way to kind of dial in that number somewhat. So I thought it was. I didn't go to the meeting where they actually announced the results, but the conversation we had at the water district was
they were all there. They were
other people. It was a really good conversation. I think everybody's got real numbers to talk around, and it also, I guess, restores some confidence in USGS if any was lacking in that they were pretty close, and their estimate between 13 to 7, and it came in at between 12 to 14,000. So, another just data point. So as of that meeting,
peak last I reported, which was in May. I didn't report on the figure, so the storage level was really high at the halfway point, and it's dipped significantly under what 2015's level was. So we had a high peak, and it's starting to go down in terms of where we were at last year with template storage, and 2015 and 2016, which was really high, but we're still well above the average, the 15-year average on the template storage. So not a lot of news there. I attended USAC, which is the Utah State Association of Commissioners and Councilmen in Brigham City last week, which is also a UAC event, and they kind of went over the bylaws for the committee. No big changes. There was a legislative discussion with the lobbyists. There wasn't any real legislative items that was much to be excited about the UAC's taking up. There was one worth mentioning that a representative, a bill that they want to run that's going to require training for commissioners and council members, as opposed to voluntary training, a lot like what they did. And they didn't get a very warm response from that, from anyone really. It kind of felt like the tail wagging the dog. And so I don't know if he plans on running that bill, but it doesn't anticipate a vote of support from UAC. Other than that, it was a good event. We did have I forget her name now with GoEd. Ruth might know the rural director for GoEd. She stopped by and gave us a kind of an overview of the 25K thing, kind of what we can expect there, and so they had a panel lined up to talk about that. San Juan County has hired a new economic development director. It's opened a bike shop in Bruce Adams' old gas station. That's a young mover and shaker. So I recommended her connect with Zachariah because I would anticipate some positive synergy between those two folks. So it was interesting to hear kind of they laid out their groundwork for their economic development plan. Those would be my only takeaways from UAC worth mentioning. I think that's all I got.
Nice, thank you. All right, me. I attended the...
Oh, and thank you for covering things.
Yeah, that was very useful information about the landlord.
Yeah, that was real interesting. Yeah. You get a lot of good information.
There are a lot of resources
that
are being utilized.
Underutilized in Grand County.
Yeah, utilized by Carbon County residents. I mean, because that Association of Governments office is there, and it's administered by people that reside in Carbon County, it's such a tendency that those resources can be utilized by the surrounding area. And the new director, I feel like, has really acknowledged that, and that's been the driver of the whole AOG meetings in Moab, in addition to Carbon County, because of those symptoms of having an administrative function.
And they said about the weatherization, because we have been so represented on that even though there's a long waiting list, if we got somebody from Grand County to apply, they would move up the waiting list faster because we have been so underserved down there. So it's really would benefit. I thought I'd go talk to the property managers and tell them.
You know what we need to do is have Jerry, the new director for AOG, come and present to the council and walk us through all the resources that they provide, so that the whole board has an opportunity to understand exactly what they do and what's out there.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and she would do it.
Is that a future agenda item, or is that a future workshop item?
That's an agenda item.
Okay. You want me to reach out to her? Just ask her to come present at some point.
Good.
Will do.
Now your turn.
My turn. Well, I went to the Health District Board meeting, and you heard Brady's very good presentation. You heard from the commissioners, and I don't really have a lot to add beyond what I've already said in the papers and what I've said in lots of public meetings, except that we do, I say we as in a whole board, recognize some of the things that we did, and we were working on those till this all got sidetracked because of the resolution. well aware of our shortcomings, and if there are issues on the board, like when you toss out a term like micromanage, you've got to back that up with exactly what did we micromanage, and I believe it comes down to education of board members. Replacing the entire board is not wise in my opinion, because you get a new board of new people who granted have fresh ideas, and that's great, but they may never have been on a board before, and they may not do any better job of micromanaging, not micromanaging. So I think I do have full confidence in the board, and that's my hope is to let the board come up with solutions, whether it be I won't even speculate on what those might be, but I'm a team player, so if the board has voted to do something and it's not my vote, I still play as a team. So I think it needs to go back to the health board.
So Curtis brought up a good point with it being a 9-member board, and Grant County only has 3 votes, so I didn't see why a lot of the finger pointing was coming.
And he didn't answer my question.
No, I agree. I agree.
It's just a math question.
And that's been mentioned in the coverage paper, newspaper coverage as well, that how can you really blame one county when there are only 3 votes on a 9-member board? You probably have votes from the 2 other counties. No.
Okay.
No. So anyway, I don't want to drag that down into the dirt.
The majority thing, I guess, did touch on that, right? And the specific hiring issue. Is that not that lays the blame at Green County City? That was
What was he saying? 100%? You have to have 100%.
I don't know what he was saying.
That confused me.
And he wasn't that from Commissioner Wilson or
the new Keith Brady? That's all.
Yeah. Kent. And he has not been on that board. He is now the appointed member from Emery County, but I really didn't get where he was talking about things that he's not been there to witness personally, So I'm really not sure what that was about. But anyway, I want to move on. It's my hope and desire that we can move on and work this out.
Do you have faith in that?
I do. I don't know what's in store for this meeting on the 6th, but we'll see. Yeah, it would be absolutely better to keep the financial resources together.
We had talked during our agenda planning and such about if we needed to go into closed session to talk openly about personalities and such. Where do people feel about that?
I personally, I see this as a huge issue that affects the community, and I'd really like to get down to the nitty-gritty on how this happens specifically. And I don't think we can have that discussion here.
Okay.
So, it's going to affect the hospital. This moves off, it's vaccines, it's cancer screening. This is all going to be coming to Moab Regional Hospital, and it's going to be a very big strain on resources for us. I'm sure we would pick it up. I mean, if there's not anybody that steps forward, that's why I was asking about the gap. But I think I'd like to talk about this more in closed session, personally.
I think because the accusations
and that too. I think we just need to.
Okay, so let's after we do council reports, take a motion.
I would prefer to wait again 2 weeks because I am not prepared for a closed session. I would want to bring emails and a timeline and all that kind of thing. So I would prefer to wait until 2 weeks from today.
I would prefer to have 2 closed sessions. I would like to get into some things tonight because I do think it is the article of consensus. I understand, your request that we'll be willing to explore another closed session where we can do maybe some of these.
And I would support that as well.
Okay. May I just remind you all that the closed session then would be for character and competence of an individual. Is that what we're talking about? Because you can't just go into closed session to talk about strategizing or
an individual board.
Yeah.
We're well aware of
Yeah,
requirements of closed session, and I don't think this is a stretch, given some of the accusations that were made. Yeah, I think we just have to explore those.
Our county attorney can be available by cell phone. He let me know that ahead of time. So.
Okay. Sorry to drag that out longer. But then I went to the Four Corners Community Behavioral Health Board meeting, and that was interesting. It's a very well-run board. And interestingly, some of the members are the same. So it doesn't seem like those same issues are being raised on this board at this point in time. One thing that I found interesting, we were looking at the revised 2018 budget report. There were line items on there regarding the JRI initiative formula, and I noticed that Carbon and Emory both have money for JRI.
Justice Reinvestment Initiative, yes. And so I, of course, wanted to know what that was about. Why wouldn't Grand have some? And they received a very careful explanation. It seems that there was money available, and I can't remember if it was state or federal or a combination of both, to work through what you're going to do to help this initiative go forth. And they applied for grants for all three counties, on behalf of all three counties, but at the end of the day, they didn't have a letter from our county. And so the grant was rejected for our county, but the other two counties got money for that. This is exciting though. County budget requests. I think I gave you hints several months ago that they would be asking for less money next year. Last year they asked our Grand County's allocation of funding to this behavioral health, Four Corners Behavioral Health, was $117,824. This year, for 2018, it's only going to be $91,246, and so that's a huge, significant savings. And they expect that to carry forward. They don't expect to be jumping up to the old $117,000 amount, so that's good. And then the Interact Clubhouse. Well, they're building a campus in Moab on Knob Hill, kind of behind Wendy's, on 2.2 acres. 9 units of, it's going to include 9 units of staff housing, which will be a combinations of single and family, and so they hope to be able to house some of their staff because people can't afford to live here. They've secured the services of an architect, and I did ask the question, who owns the Interact building? It's just right up there, kind of kitty corner from the city offices, the Interact Clubhouse, and they own the building, but they do not own the land that it's sitting on. So Grand County owns the land, Four Corners owns the building. So I don't know if they're planning on moving out of that at the end of the day when their new campus is built. And we might want to be thinking of any way we can benefit from that. Yes?
I'm sorry, I'm unfamiliar with what all happens in the campus. Are there clients or whatever staying there as well?
Yes. Okay. Well, let me see.
I don't think they.
No, they won't be living there. No. Okay. No. Just their services will be delivered there. Mental health counseling, the Interact Clubhouse will be there, but I don't believe they have any client living quarters there. Just staff. So that's moving forward and looking good. On October 12th, if any of you are interested, there is a meet and greet. They've held these in all three counties. Grand County's is on October 12th, 8 o'clock, begin in drug court, and then I think it's basically a tour of their operations. And October 8th, Friday? I guess if that's what October. Did I say? No, it's October 12th. I'm sorry, from 8 to 12. And I imagine you could come and go heard it said so many times and I still can't remember how to say it. Overdose reversal drug. There were 42 overdoses in the state, in the last 10 months, I believe, that were reversed by this drug. 10 of them were in Carbon County. So that's good news, but kind of scary. So a quarter of them were in Carbon County. It's my understanding that our county doesn't participate in that either. I'd like to delve deeper into that. I think those are all. That was enough.
And I forgot the USU advisory board.
Okay. Oh, good.
So the advisory board's kind of been reshuffled a little bit, and we split up into two committees, serving on either one or the other. There's a programs and curriculum committee that's working on what's going to be the phase-in on USU MOAC offerings, and that's a process of bouncing those off of Logan to see what they're looking at for phase-in. And that will define how we raise money on our end and what those people don't just want to curriculum. So we have to finish that process. So the finance committee is exploring working with the foundation money, and Logan hired fundraisers. The takeaway is that we're working, we're moving, and the biggest development is we got a meeting scheduled for the second week of November to host the president of the university and our legislators here in Moab to discuss legislative fundraising stuff.
Second week of November.
Second week in November. It's for the USU Mod Advisory Board, but I'm sure there's a way to folks are interested in, being involved to some extent. I certainly support that. I'm not quite sure what the agenda and schedule looks like, but I think a site tour of the future site would be in order, and more of a strategy session in terms of how to attack the legislature 4-hour ask, which we've identified as not being 2018 but 2019. That's my understanding. So we're not going to, nobody from Logan or Moab is going to be approaching the legislature for funding support for this session. But we're moving forward. We still haven't got the LOI back that we sent out. We did have a call with Neil Abercrombie last week. They do have it. We kind of went through it line by line. No big issues, so we're just waiting for it to show.
Maybe they're going to hand deliver it.
The president of the university hand delivers it, and that would be a good thing. So,
Okay,
it's
thank
moving.
you. Thank you for that report. Rory.
Oh, mine's pretty easy. Because I went to airport board as Patrick Trim yesterday, so I'll let him tell you about my board. It's the only one I had. I had to miss it, so.
So there's two big things on the airport board that we talked about, actually three. One was the bylaws, updating the bylaws, and they were so old, they were dated back to when the airport was just accepting small little planes. So we painstakingly had to go through each piece of paper and just, review it and make changes. And it's going to be coming to this board for approval at, I think, the October 25th or the next meeting, I believe. So that was one of the things. The other thing, they had a consultant that came up with a drainage plan for the airport. So they're looking at expanding the hangars out there, but then you can't just start putting hangars up without a drainage plan. So that was debated quite a bit because there was an owner that's on the board of a hangar out there, and they were talking about splitting the cost between who's going to pay the cost of, getting the first hangar there, and you got the drainage coming down here. Well, who's going to pay for the next piece that's got to bring it here to here? And we were talking about what each of them will split, but then there was a big debate about, well, if I'm already here and I've got my drain, why should I pay more, right, for the next guy? So we talked about that for probably a good half an hour. It was very interesting. The other piece was the budgets, and we did a good review of the budget. Judd had his budget for everybody to review, and based on how we're looking at the budgets now, I kind of explained to Judd, you may want to come in and take a look at these, because he had two miscellaneous accounts. He had, they were just duplicate accounts, plus there was a little bit of you know how we were looking at the budgets and said, you know, for the last 2 or 3 years you spent X, but yet you're asking for Y. You know, so we don't want to, you know, grill you in the process. And he said, great, I appreciate that heads up, and I'll come with, and the board all agreed because they saw what I was talking about. So I think that worked out well to kind of give him a heads up so he came in prepared, and he didn't seem to have a problem with it. There will be increases in some of his budget because the airport expansion plan next year will, you know, increase some of those budget line items, and I said, well, just be prepared to talk about that. Nobody's going to, you know, tell you can't have the money if it's for the airport expansion or anything, justify that. So everything was good there. Then when
thanks for going.
Oh, no problem. No problem. You set me up to go to the longest meeting.
I know. I was like, perfect.
We didn't get out of there until 8 or 8:30 last night. But I did learn a lot. It was a good board to sit on. On the rec board, that was they had some good presentations there, I guess is what I'm trying to say. The one that was the most interesting was the rodeo. So they came in and were pitching for the seed money, for the $30,000. They paid last year's back, so they gave us a check for last year, which was great. Two things I found interesting in the rodeo. First was they were asking for another 30, but when I kind of tasked them to say, well, what's the revenue you expect to come in for the next year? They showed us all the expenses, but they didn't show us the revenue. So I said, before we could approve this, I want to see the revenue, right? Because if you're making $60,000, why would you have us put seed money in for 30, right? So just enlighten us on, you know, what your revenue is each year, and I think that would help us out a lot to be able to do that, to make an informed decision. The other part of that was they were talking about, do you know anybody that can take this over? Which I thought was interesting because we were,
not the first time.
The rodeo?
The rodeo, right? So we're looking at them like, no, we're not going to volunteer for this. I think part of the issue they were talking about was the volunteers and how many volunteers they had. And it seemed like the same 5 people, they said, took it over and were trying to do this. But there was discussion afterwards about how the volunteers were treated and all those kinds of things too, which may have lent to the fact that that's why they're not getting volunteers. And that's all anecdotal, right? But I'm just informing you of the discussion that took place there. So, we also had a presentation for Moab Skate Night. So it's volunteer. It would be buying the skates and buying this trailer with a stereo system in it. Almost reminds me of when I was young and they had the roller rinks and, you know, you had the ball, you know. So that's one that they're going to have to vote on for next time. And then the ball fields. I had a little bit of reservation about having this ribbon cutting, only because if you're drawing attention to something that was kind of an anomaly to begin with, why would you do that after 4 years, right? It was me. I was kind of thinking, just let it slip through, let's start using the fields and just be quiet, right? And then when somebody asks a question, we can say, oh, we've been using those fields, right? But now you're drawing attention to the fact that you're opening these after 4 years and just dumping money into this, right? So, but they wanted to go ahead with it anyway, so I'm fine, you know, just gave my recommendation of, you know. But the good part of this was the rec department in the city is now working with, and can work, in a local agreement with the county, and they're already starting to schedule events and things out there, which is really good, and I was glad to hear that. So as soon as they gave the go to use them, they were already trying to get events out there, which was great. So that was pretty much it. Rec was a little more entertaining than the airport board.
That reminds me, one of the bills that was floated at UAC was to kind of rein special service districts in. I forgot to mention that reminded me because there's a sense of
Hey, look, we finally opened these after 6 years.
And it's in the wintertime, we can't do anything. It's like crazy.
We can't have any events.
We forgot to blow out the sprinkler system.
Right.
It's funny.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
Was there any talk about county fair stuff or anything? Did that come up?
No. I mean, they talked a little bit about it, but there was no real proposal or no real discussion on it.
Somebody to head it.
You know, Monticello's county fair is awesome. Yeah. And it doesn't look like a high, well, I know it's not a big expenditure point, but it really is awesome, community event. And
The chamber tried to take that over.
if you do it right, I mean, we do have the facilities for it. It can be a really good gym. But my takeaway from when, what's his name, rodeo buddy? Kurt. Yeah. When he came in and they presented on the rodeo, that was my takeaway. This is what your point was, just kind of burn out, and he's feeling the weight on his shoulders.
He wants out.
And kind of looking for more options.
You could tell they wanted out.
Yeah, and it was kind of like the county's got to step up their financial contribution, or this thing might collapse. Is kind of the takeaway I had from that. This would not be good.
And there was a presentation made by the rodeo committee about 4 years ago, and there was a council member at that time, Councilmember Chirus, who was interested in stepping up and getting the fair board going, and he got on the rec district board, and anyway, there was a little bit of interest for a minute, but yeah, so the county did used to have a fair board. It's been more than 10 years ago, right? But it's a funding issue.
People burn out from the volunteering. I think that's what happened to our 4th of July, activities in the park, and what happened to the fair. I know is what happened to the fair is the people that are volunteering and doing all this, after about 5 years, they want somebody else to step up to the plate, and a lot of times nobody steps up, and they finally go, well, we're done.
Yep. Oh, yeah, you're only going to be as steady as the quality and consistency of the volunteers, and there's a lot of activities from the community in this district. If you do these things, then you get what you pay for it, and if it's of value, you got to pay for it. And even the folk festival that came in, they just had a hit at the park with their concert series, and obviously they've got some key volunteers, but even they're feeling a little bit of pressure because it's a lot of work for people, and they're worried about how consistent their volunteer base is.
Well, that's what concerned me about the rodeo, when they're starting to say we're losing volunteers, we got 5. I'm concerned about giving seed money to an organization without looking at the revenue that's coming in. If you're not self-sustaining and you can't support that, then we've got the seed money, we've given them seed money they'll never pay back, and we're putting our funds at risk.
I think you got to look at the market too. I mean, you kind of have to have that honest conversation. Moab isn't exactly a little San Antonio, and you've got some hobbyists that are trying to promote the event, and there are some still some rancher families, but it's not like it used to be. And that's what a lot of people are chasing, in my opinion, is they're trying to get where it used to be, but the demographics changing. There's not a lot of ranching and cowboying going on, so they're kind of drawn to let's make it an economic event and get the rodeoers here, looking to spend money. But if you, really understand what, career or part-time rodeoers, they're sleeping in the back of their trucks and gassing up and getting out of town, so.
We're trying to hit the big rodeos. They don't want the little ones.
Yeah, you either got to do it or not.
We're trying to be a big rodeo on a small budget. That's really what it boils down to. And they just, I agree with you 100%. And they actually kind of made that reference. There's not the people that they're used to be around here. So they're making the case. They're actually making the case that, the reverse case. I mean, right? That's what kind of threw up red flags and saying, well, gee, you don't have the demographics. You're not showing some revenue. And you still expect us to support $30,000 to seed money? I get a little concerned with that. So
the miners and ranchers are gone. In the 70s and 80s, they had big roping events at the Atlantic place where the arenas every week. There was people going down and roping and roping clubs, and still a lot of demand for it. You don't see much of it.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session to discuss character, professional competency, or physical or mental health.
Okay. Mary's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Patrick seconds the motion. All in favor? I'll go with you, Evan. All opposed? They've caught us. We're going to have to do it.
So what was that vote?
Oh, sorry, it was, I guess, yeah, well, I did stick my hand up, so it's 6-1.
If I could go home, I'll vote with you guys if you get one more person.